welcome back, youtube.com/Geek Aloud. It's almost like sometimes I surprise myself with that opener. Maybe we should invest in some slightly, but that's next week's problem. Hello, welcome. This is episode 50 of the Gaming Enforcement Agency. You know I'm being joined by Unky Dunky himself. Sir, how are you this evening?
Mate, I'm very well. Happy birthday or half birthday. We've reached 50 episodes, so congratulations to us. Small pat on the back.
Oh, if my arms were a bit longer, I would. And, of course, Bully's there. Hey, Bully, how you doing, man? How's that tan treating you?
Oh, that tan is going well. If you're lucky enough, I might break out into song and show you it on the camera a bit later as well.
Very nice. And if you want to see where he was, check out Geek Aloud at Twitter. Woo, we've got some holiday snaps up on there. Tonight, we're going to kick it off with games Interrogation and Deliberation. It's the 5 games, count them 5, we've been playing this week. That's right, it's a little slimmer than last week. And then we've got 4-3 new stories coming at you, new releases for this week. And then it is the Standoff. Unky Dunky, can you tell me, my friend, who is standing off this evening and what are the constraints to join the Standoff?
Mate, we've spoken about best characters in games, we've spoken about best dads in games, but now it's how they feel to play. We're looking at the game characters that feel the best to play, whether that's smooth, responsive, good controls, or just make you feel like the character. We're going to go through a list tonight. Let us know in the chat what you think is your favourite character that is to control. Doesn't matter what it might be. It could be any game. Just let us know in that chat. We'll see if it's on our list at the end of the evening.
Great work, mate. You've just reminded me I need to do something with that poll, but that'll be a problem for later on. I'll fumble my way through it. And then, of course, we come over to you, dear good sirs in the audience. Please, as we go along, bang any questions or comments into that live YouTube stream. And howdy, boys. I think, Bully, correct me if I'm wrong, man, but do we already have 3 people in there waiting for us to kick it off this evening?
We do. I've already been conversing with a few of them. I think we'll jump through a few a bit later, but Matt 47's just telling me we're really stretching the concept of an 8 p.m.-ish start, given that we've been a bit the last couple of weeks.
Oh, mate, look how close it is. I've essentially just hit 8 now. What's he worried about?
Well, I just told him.
It's 8-ish, guys. 8-ish.
8-ish. But having said that, MIR12, who regularly jumps in, has pointed out that normally he's, by the time we're on, he's having to go to bed, and watch it in the morning, but he can actually start watching us live now. So, bit of give and take with both of them. Hopefully it works out for both of you and we can push forward.
I love it, guys. Thank you very much for being on duty with us this evening. That being said, let's kick off to games Interrogation and Deliberation, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right, guys, first up this week, and once again, it's God of War. Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? But the standard disclaimer, there's no story spoilers. The footage, no story spoilers. Myself, Unky Dunky, and Bully, shall reveal nothing. You've got nothing to fear. We're going to be as ambiguous as we can be, revealing nothing yet. Praising it, showering it with praise. And with that being said, Unky Dunky, over to you, mate, for the lead investigation. Please take her away.
Now, admittedly, Bully hasn't actually played any God of War yet, so that's definitely the reason why he can't share any information about it, so don't worry about him at all.
Well, I was going to say, Unky, there's a couple of things. One, you're going to get no spoilers out of me. Number 2, if there is any, I'm going to reach through this microphone and slap you across the face, because as soon as we're finished tonight, as I said, I got it delivered late. I've been away. I've come home this afternoon. It is been patched. It's loaded. It's good to go. And as soon as we're finished, I'm jumping in. So there will be nothing coming out of my lips or yours, I hope, to spoil what we're coming up.
Bully, once you've played it, mate, I expect a message to you to congratulate us for how well we danced around any spoilers, especially last week, mate. That was a thing of beauty. Once you've played it, you'll know what I'm saying. But, sorry, Unky, over to you, mate.
No, that's all right. And there's a reason we've only played 5 games this week and not the 9 from last week, is because predominantly all my time has gone into this game this week. And what a game. All the stuff I said last week, I just echo that in droves. The game has gotten even better. It's thrown up twists, it's thrown up turns here and there, and I've been surprised at every turn. It's slowed down at points where I could make it slow down without spoiling stuff too much, just like the last God of War. Like, you obviously end up in bigger areas within the game that allow you to sort of slow down and complete side quests and stuff like that. You can either choose to do that or just, push ahead with the main campaign when you feel fit to do so. But obviously going off on that, the off-beaten path does allow you to pick up some decent armor and upgrades and stuff for your Kratos that you otherwise wouldn't have, which does make your journey quite easier. And as I said last week, even just with the small sort of 10 hours I'd played then, some of these side quests, the story and stuff they've got going on in here is just absolutely incredible and could fill out a whole game in itself. So, I mean, I've put in maybe 24 hours now. I was actually just checking tonight just to see. Bully's distracted me with his beautiful face. Just where I'm up to now, it's just the stuff that it's been it's been doing is just it's still next level, and it's definitely up there as game of the year contender because just everything about this game so far has been absolutely perfect. I can't fault it at the moment. Before Bully distracted me with
one.
What's that?
My old man hands. That dual sense.
There is that. There is a lot of stuff going on that controller, and the more you go through this game, the more abilities and stuff you unlock. And there is so many, as I said last week on the show, there is so many different things you can do with this controller. They have left no button unturned, more so than any other game I think this year. Like, it's ridiculous how much stuff you can do and how much stuff you can remember. There's still things I forget to even do in this game. Like even just a simple act now of holding triangle, which puts the ice on your axe, I just completely forget to do. And when you do that, it unlocks a whole bunch of different moves that you can use with your axe that are actually in the unlock skill tree, which I've unlocked. Do you think I've used half of them? Probably not. But no, like it just keeps getting better and better. And I'd like to hear from you, Troy, now that you've played some more, what your initial thoughts were. I know you had some glowing opinion after about for the 40 minutes in, but I'd like to see where you are now with it.
Man, I absolutely love this game. If you thought I loved it this week, I love it even more. Last week, excuse me. I love it even more this week. I think I'm about 5 hours in at this point, loving myself stupid, but I am seriously limited to max 30 minutes playtime, and then my knuckles are blown out. I've got the DualSense 5 set to the weakest output, and still, mate, 30 minutes of this game, and I'm in all sorts of agony. So, well, I should say 40 minutes of this game, and I'm in agony. So I capped myself at 30 minutes, and that's it. I'm doing 30-minute spurts once or twice a day. That's how I'm getting through it. But I love it. If I could have anything, it'd be artificial fingers, and I would just be playing this game flat out. I'm absolutely loving it. Shout out to the writers. My God, their comedy in this thing is second to none. I don't remember the first game being particularly funny, but this game, what's his name? I'm blanking on old mate's head on your belt.
Mia.
Mimir, thank you. That guy has some ripper lines. Bully, out of respect for you not playing it yet, I won't spoil any this evening. But next week, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to maybe... What do you reckon about this, Unky? Next week's standoff is Mimir's top lines from the game because he has had some absolute rip snorters. I absolutely love him.
He has, and like as you move through the game, there's a bunch of other characters as well that make some very funny comments. And as I think I said it last week, there's like obviously equal moments of brevity and stuff when it comes to the moments that are happening and the tears that it can elicit. But there's just so many funny moments in this game as well that just light you up, and you can't help but laugh to yourself. And it's not the type of game you expect to go in and get a laugh out of, but I think they earn it because of everything else that's going on around. It's so serious that when they do say something funny, it just stands out a lot more than a game that might be just going, for that laugh. So no, I just think the writing's absolutely brilliant in this game. And I remember what I was going to say before Bully distracted me with his beautiful face. I was checking the sort of chapters to see where I was at in the game because I was getting to the point where surely I'm getting close to the end of this game. So I just did a quick look. I didn't want too many spoilers. So I was just sort of going down and clicking on to see where I was at in the game. And it looks like I'm just literally a touch over halfway at about the 25-hour mark. So this game is an absolute beast.
That's awesome, man. You put a big smile on my face. I love to hear that. That means I've got a long road ahead, and that makes me super happy. Another shout out to the voice cast or the scripting, or call it what you will, but just going off and doing the bonus areas. I love that Atreus would be like, Dad, I think we're all done here. Or Kratos, I don't know how he refers to him, but, we're all done here. Time to move on. That's so good because I'd probably spend an extra 5 minutes nosing around looking for something, but the game to just prompt me, yeah, mate, you've got it all here. Move on. I think that's a stroke of genius. Thank you, Sony Santa Monica.
I have noticed, so there is like a little bit of a tip. If you do like solving puzzles in this game, I have found some of the characters do tend to point out how to solve that puzzle relatively quickly. Sometimes I think there is something in accessibility that you can sort of up that time that characters will help you out. Kind of like how... who was it? There was a game recently where Horizon Forbidden West, where Aloud was mentioning all the time how to solve the puzzle and not give you too much sort of a chance to solve it. Whereas, the God of War games, they're known for their puzzles and trying to solve them. And they're actually, to be honest, I've actually been stuck for a little bit longer than I thought I would be in some of them. But most of the time, the characters are pretty good at pointing out. I just know there has been some complaints sort of leveled at God of War for sort of telling you the answer a little bit too quick. So not sure if that's something they can patch or whatever, but I don't mind it. I think it's kind of, for me, it feels more like real life that if you were just, struggling with something or trying to find a puzzle, that whoever you were with would probably be trying to help you out with it. And not leaving you up to your own devices. So I kind of wish with some of them where I was stuck, they would tell me more. So maybe it's just finding that balance. But no, it's very minor nitpicks at this point with a game that's essentially perfect at this point in time. So, and I can tell now, just going from the glowing reviews and stuff, I haven't seen any spoilers in relation to endings or anything like that, even though YouTube thumbnails do their best to try and spoil you. So even just looking for this footage tonight, for later on, so for God of War, if you type in God of War Ragnarok gameplay, be very careful about what you're looking at, because there's some stuff there that I just scrolled through very fast to make sure I was not seeing spoilers and stuff. So yeah, just be very careful out there if you don't want spoilers for this game, because they are definitely out there.
That's great advice, Unky. I need some more advice, though, on this game. At some point, is there an ability to speed up the which at which Kratos draws his shield out? I feel like the counter window, by the time it occurs to me to hit L1 to bring out the shield, it's too late. I need that counter window to be a bit bigger. Is there a skill I need to unlock? Is it a shield or...
What shield did you go for? Because you get that selection of the two shields at the start of the game. There's like one that absorbs damage, and there's a parry shield.
Oh, I am using the parry shield, yes.
Oh, you are using the parry shield. Oh, I found the parrying actually quite good. Like you can parry without that sort of yellow circle coming up as well. So you don't have to wait for that circle to come up.
That's the tip I needed. I was waiting for the yellow to appear, and then I was getting clubbed in the face, and I'm like, what's going on?
Always show up. I think that parry comes up if they're low on health, and you parry it so you can take them out. Whereas any attack that's sort of coming, you've got to sort of be watching for it. So, which is another thing I think I spoke about last week, how the characters are really good about sort of Kratos on your left or behind you and stuff like that. So as you turn, if you see them coming at you with attack, just hit block straight away and he'll parry it.
Yeah, okay. There's the tip I needed. Thank you very much. Yeah, and this game is very much like your Dark Souls, your Soulsborne games. The parrying mechanic really opens up a whole secondary level of attacks, which is fantastic, and to what you're alluding to earlier. But now knowing how to use the parry correctly, not waiting, mate, that's a pro tip, and I thank you very much for it.
No, and as I said, there is other shields, like if your playstyle isn't parrying, which a lot of people don't like the parrying, a lot of people like that Soulsborne thing, just get the biggest, hardiest shield you possibly can and just block up. You can also do that as well, and they come with their own special sort of abilities and stuff as well, so you can stack damage into your shield and use that shield to create more damage with enemies. So if you prefer that sort of style of gameplay and you don't like the sort of nuance of trying to parry attacks, then you can do that as well. So I think that's what this game does well, is you can utilize all your tools how you want. Obviously, there are certain enemies that are weak to ice attacks or weak to fire attacks, so you might need to switch up your weapons just to sort of take that shield down. But then once that shield's down, you can feel free to attack them however you like. So, but it just balances fights nicely, and how you have to actually go forward and actually use those abilities that you've learned and try and get those little man hands fighting that controller just to get through some fights, because there's a few there where even Troy, my hands nowhere near as bad as yours, but some of those fights I ended, I swear to God, it looks like a crow with those fingers. They can cause quite some damage, but you're so in it and so in the fight at the time that you're sort of not really thinking about it until afterwards, where you can't move anymore.
So, when you go to get the coffee and you can't. Sorry, Bully, mate, go.
I was just going to say, as someone who's hopefully going to kick it off in the next couple of hours, with the choice of shields you get at the start, do you get to, if one of them doesn't suit how you want to play down the track, are you able to swap them out, or are you sort of stuck with what you picked to start with?
Nah, so you will definitely pick up the other version of that shield not too long after. So once you get a chance, once you've got them, you can then upgrade those shields as well. So once you've found your play style, you can sort of pick up those shields, and you can even mix and match whenever you want. So I've had maybe 3 or 4 different types of shields now, and upgraded a few of them and worked out their different abilities, and even one that I thought I wasn't going to use for very long, it's now like my main shield that I've been using. So they keep throwing different mechanics at you and different unlocks for each one. You got all your different attunements and stuff you can do. You start picking up later into the game as well. Like, you don't pick up one of your heavy sort of main special attacks till much later in the game, which just makes me think like the game seems to be going off ages. We haven't even got one, so that's what makes you think. Even now, like, I've barely unlocked any heavy attacks for my runic abilities, and like I know there's going to be a lot more, just like the last game. So that's what made me check to see sort of how far I was into the game, because I'm thinking, I haven't unlocked a whole lot of these, and I've been playing this game for 25 hours almost. So no, it's just it's got a really nice drip feed of abilities that you're getting and stuff. So I don't really want to spoil anything at all now, like with the quests I'm doing now. But it's looking like we potentially may have other options at our disposal, but I don't know what they might be yet. But it's looking very exciting, and I can't wait to see where this is going. As I said last week, it's skyrocketing up my list for the game of the year, and we'll see if it sticks the landing. But I'm pretty sure it's going to.
I can't wait for the battle of the game of the year between this and Elden Ring. It's going to be a great conversation. I can't wait till we've all finished it. And as you said last week, mate, do some sort of deep dive and spoiler cast.
Sorry.
I'm very much...
Don't forget, later on we'll find out there is another game that could contend for Game of the Year. Let's just not forget that Game Awards announced that Stray is in the running for Game of the Year. So you never know.
I have no final points, and if you don't either, Unky, I say we throw over to Bully just to hear. Bully, can you give us the full Amazon story, mate?
Where do I start without getting us some sort of strike on YouTube for dropping left, right, and centre? Where did I go? So I think the update was last week that it was shipped at 4 o'clock on release date, 4 p.m. on the release date. So I was never going to get it release date. Thought, well, I'll have a look. Thursday, which is the day after release date in Australia. No, it's slated for Friday delivery. Okay, well that's fine. But I was, as we've already alluded to, I was away for a week as of Friday. Thought that's all right. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it'll be there waiting for me when I come back. And then got a message from them on the Monday. So we're talking 5 full days later. Oh, your delivery's been delayed, expected on the 21st of November, which was a good almost 2 weeks after release date. So
outrageous.
I'll be brutally honest, Bully might have jumped on the chat and gone on a bit of a rampage. And lo and behold, within about 12 hours, your item's due for delivery today. Thank you.
Nice. So the pro tip is get onto that support line early?
The pro tip is don't order from Amazon because they're a bunch of...
check.
That's why you go digital, Bully.
No, I can't go as much as the ease of it. And
as much as you want to pay the $50 premium.
Well, there's that. And
you also get to play it on midnight of launch. Like,
I was going to say, to be fair, we were all playing Modern Warfare on the night before it was releasing, and at midnight, Unkies jumped off and said, "No, I'm done. I'm playing God of War now," and we were just sort of stuck there going, "Oh, okay, well, I'm going to bed then." Look, I'm still a physical man. There's a couple of in Australia. There's a couple of physical stores that you can still go to. EB Games, I know, which is the same as GameStop overseas in the US market, and similar ones overseas. They're a rip off. You might as well pay the prices on the.
Hey man, I worked there for 10 years. All right, don't talk to me.
And you know they're a rip off. Anyway,
hey, Troy spent lots of money with me. Okay,
that's true. I did.
So I think there's another couple of places I can go to that are probably a little bit more expensive than Amazon, but if there's going to be that reliability, I think I'm going to go there from now on. I actually went back through my pre-order list from this year, and I reckon 5 or 6 times it's happened this year where they haven't shipped until the afternoon of the release date, and you're not getting it until 2 or 3 days, or if you hit that weekend, you're not getting it until Monday, Tuesday the following week, which in my opinion is pretty terrible. I know in a lot of the overseas markets, especially America, where they've got better distribution centres, etc., you'll get it the same day, or in Troy's case.
Can I? Yeah,
if you live, 2 suburbs over from the distribution centre, you get it at 10 o'clock in the morning. So
exactly, I've been pre-ordering from Amazon for a couple of years now, and they have never missed getting it to me the morning of release. So I understand what you're saying, Bully, and I'm not trying to diminish it, but in a slight defence for Amazon, if you live close to a distribution centre, it's still a pretty good service. But I totally take your point, mate, and that's outrageous. In your position, there's no way I'd ever shop with them again.
Well, my other thing before we move on, because I know we're here to talk about the games, not Amazon's crapola services. I get it if I'm living out in the middle of nowhere, or miles and miles from some sort of metropolitan centre. But I live, pretty much an hour away from metropolitan Melbourne, which is the second biggest city in Australia. So to use that argument that you're too far away from a distribution centre, I find laughable, to be honest with you. And I know for a fact you can drive from their distribution centre to my house in less than an hour and a half. So where they're going to use that argument, or how they're going to use that argument, I don't know.
No, Bully, it's because they're taking 5 minutes to drive to Troy's, and then he's making them coffee and breakfast while they deliver his game.
They're big fans of the Let's Install series. They park up onto the couch just out of shot and sit here for the whole day while I do the install, edit, and upload. So it is my fault, Bully. Sorry about that, mate.
I know what you're doing. You're going, who's next on your delivery list? Oh, Bully is. Oh, come in, boys. Oh,
Come in.
free lunch. And why don't you stick around for dinner as well? I'll make sure he gets his copy, and then I'll rile him up.
It's good content, Bully. What can I say? I take it that's it for
me.
But it's your anger, it's your passion that we love to see, Bully. Speaking of your anger and your passion, Bully, how's things going in the land of Sonic?
You know, your God of War.
This is my game of the year so far. Or my game of November, I should say. Look, I haven't put, as I've alluded to, I've been away for the last week. I only put another probably 4 or 5 hours into it after the show last week, but I'm really enjoying it. And I have actually spent a fair bit of time around the pool this week doing a bit of online reading and just seeing what's been happening. And the general consensus across the board is that it's a pretty good game. And I think there's, for some reason, only in the last day or two, that there's been a bit of review bombing on Metacritic that's dropping its score. But at one stage, it was up into the high 80s, which I think is a pretty good result for them. And I think the developers have come out and said, look, we understand this is a completely new direction for Sonic. We understand that there's going to be, some issues with it, some teething problems. What we can patch out and deal with in this game, we will. We'll take your feedback. We'll work through all those issues, and we're looking forward to the next game as well. So whatever feedback you've got, or whatever issues, or how you think the game could handle better, play better, etc., they've already stuck their hand up and said, we're prepared to take all this on board and introduce it as we can in this game, or as I said, into the next game when they look into developing it. And to be honest, I said last week, I don't know about the longevity of it getting into that 5th and 6th island that they've got, and whether there's any DLC that goes with it and all that sort of stuff. But from the island, I've done one full island and sort of 3/4 of the next one. I'm really enjoying it. It's got open world elements that, as we alluded to last week, you've got bits, and the more you do, the more you play through it, the more you open up some of these rails that you can jump on, and some areas that will actually move you through each of the zones a lot faster as you're sort of going through and solving some of those challenges. And then you've got basically to progress a game, you've got to unlock these keys. And the way you to go about that is essentially doing a hark back to the old 2D and quasi 3D Sonic games, where you play one level, and in that level you've got to collect, coins and rings, and do it in a certain time and all that sort of stuff. And the more of those challenges within each of those levels, the more keys you unlock to then progress the game. And I think there's a lot of value in it. It's obviously it's going to be a fairly lengthy game by the time you finish it all. And the gameplay, I know there's been a couple of criticisms along the way with how it sort of handles in the open world, but I haven't encountered too many of those, and I've really enjoyed the time I've spent with it, even though I've had to spend most of my time with this and not God of War.
That and, drying the eyes. You mentioned DLC, Bully. Did they, do I recall correctly, did they drop a tiny bit of DLC already this week?
Yeah, they did. So they've done the. You've caught me off guard there, because I had it up on screen and I've dropped it. But they did. They've already released some costumes for Sonic, and if one of you boys knows, otherwise I'll give you what it is in just a second. But to have that within the first sort of week, I think is pretty decent.
Yeah,
the Monster Hunter crossover was what it was. So you've got some costume pieces for that, and if that's what they're dropping in the first week, and they're going to continue to support it with that sort of stuff, just to make it a little bit more interesting, and then eventually, I can't say what I wouldn't, given the fairly positive reception that it's had. That they're not going to then progress into full-sized DLCs, either expanding the story or introducing new worlds, or that sort of stuff. I would expect that that's probably going to be coming in the next sort of 6 to 12 months.
And I'm pretty sure they ignored Jim Ryan's advice, didn't they? That DLC was free?
Look, I'm pretty sure that Jim, even though it was developed by Sega, old crying Jim Ryan, it was jumping around all over the place saying, please charge me for it. I need some money. Oh, jerk, Jim Ryan, his pockets are lining dry at the moment. And thankfully, Sega said, no, we've thrown it as a thank you. And, they've done that, a bit of goodwill as well, I think, for the guys or for anyone that supported early doors when there was a massive competition with the release window they put it into. So I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see it's tracking well and playing well for everyone concerned. And even better than that, anytime we get to see, Jim Ryan crying, I'm happy chappy.
That works for me. I'll tell you what made me a happy chappy today. That was the launch of Warzone 2.0, boys. I got to tell you, I spent a lot of install time today getting the PS4, PS5, and Xbox Series X install videos up on the channel. If you've got any one of those three consoles and you want to know the specifics, I've got you covered. Check out the last three videos on Geek Aloud. But I've gone hands-on with it. I spent about an hour 10 in there. Did either of you blokes get a chance to go hands-on with Warzone today? Warzone 2.
No Warzone for me. I saw it hit the Xbox to download, but I was like, I've got it on PS5, and I think my PS5 did some automatic update that added it to the menu. Whether I have to actually download it, I'm not 100% sure. I probably still have to click on and do that install. How big was the install?
Four and a half install. I did it about an hour ago.
Oh, that's not too bad. That won't take too long at all, which is all right. So, but I've never. It's one of those ones that I've never really got into the battle royale when it comes to Call of Duty. For some reason, I just prefer that pick up and play of the sort of quick deathmatch stuff when it comes to the standard multiplayer. But I could see maybe getting into this if you got a good crew together and stuff like that. Troy, how was your first experience?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. They've added these. They've added a little bit more dynamics to the level. As you see right there, they've put first aid kits on the wall, and so it's just tiny little tweaks like this. And you can loot the cash registers and stuff. They've just made the world in general more interactive. You've got your vehicles that you can pick up. As you could in Warzone 1, but now they've got a fuel tank, so you can run out of fuel. But there's fuel stations, so it's like if your vehicle that you're in takes damage, you drive up to a fuel stop. You don't have to interact with the pump itself, but if you just pull up alongside a fuel pump, the damage of the car gets removed just slowly over time, and the fuel tank fills back up, and then you can take off and go again. So just a lot of little tweaks to make the game more interactive. And the big shout out I've got, keep your eye on this footage here, you'll see they've added about 6 billion seagulls to the sky. Everywhere you look constantly, there's a flock of seagulls, and I think it's just trying to, if you're looking out across the landscape for a little bit of movement, there's a lot of sort of false positives. You're like, oh, there's someone, over on the west, and then you zoom in and, oh, no, that's not someone, that's another seagull. So I don't know what... The map's fine. I mean, I've only been on an hour, so I haven't even seen the whole thing, but I love this little homage here to Venice where you get in the boat and it's a flooded city, but, you can go in and out between the buildings and stuff. There's great opportunities to, jump out the window, jump in someone else's boat as they're going along, shoot them in the back of the head, steal their boat. There's, boat jackings are a thing. I love it. There's all sorts of just really interesting, it's like they just sat down with a notebook and what's every possible extra interaction we could cram into this game. They've gone for broke. Tip of the cap to them. I reckon I'll be playing this for at least another 10 hours, and every sort of 10 minutes I'll probably be finding a new little world interaction. I'm floored by it. I wasn't expecting it. I was thinking it was very much going to be just like, how can we make it more like Fortnite? Because Fortnite has had a lot of evolution over the years, but, they've really it doesn't feel like Fortnite. It feels like the boys have really sat down and banged their heads together. What can we do to just make the world more immersive? And they've pulled it off beautifully. I'm really impressed by it. It's a thing of beauty. Oh, and the thing I've got to note is the Battle Pass went live today. It's 15 Australian dollars, and I went searching on the internet high and low. I cannot find anywhere the end date for this season. My question out there to anybody, you blokes included, but I doubt anyone will be able to find it. What is the end date for season 1? I'm dying to know if it's the full 12 weeks. It should be, by rights, 3 months, 12 weeks. That's the season. But I've noticed a few of the games lately have been doing 9-week seasons and still charging that $15. So I'm dying to know if Activision are going to try and keep the price high and then take a few weeks off the Battle Pass duration, but I can't find that answer anywhere. Have you blokes read, heard, seen anything with respect to the end date of season 1?
Nothing at all. I think you're probably right with those timeframes, though. That's sort of the general sort of thing when it comes to battle passes. So I can imagine that. I haven't seen anything elsewhere that says timeframes. I'm sure we could look it up and probably find it, but I reckon you're probably on the money.
Well, yeah, but the reason I've sort of I thought once I unlocked it, it'd be obvious, and I'm referring there to Battlefield 2042, that even though it's locked, there's just a screen in their UI where it's like challenges, and it's like week 1 through 12, and the weeks you haven't unlocked yet aren't unlocked, but it still clearly indicates there is 12 weeks in this season. And if you remember on Fortnite's main menu down the bottom left, it says, season whatever there, chapter 2, season 6, finishing, November, whatever, or whatever that end date is, they're really upfront and transparent with it. But I went all the way through the Activision. There's they have Call of Duty frequently asked questions about the season 1 of the Battle Pass. I read the whole thing top to bottom. Nowhere did it say an end date. It's so I'm waiting to see if crying Jim Ryan's been in their ear and he's going to try and nickel and dime us on that one. Oh, which reminds me, here's my plea to anyone playing on PlayStation who's going to get the Battle Pass. Do me a big favor. Find someone with an Xbox, log into their account and buy your Battle Pass, log into your Warzone account because it's free. You can download just the Warzone component for free on Xbox and buy the Battle Pass through there. Give Phil Spencer your money, not crying Jim Ryan. That's my tip for the Battle Pass. I think we need to avoid giving that man money at all costs, and this is a prime opportunity. It's exactly what I did today. But that's sort of it for my summary. It's very enjoyable and it's free on any console, so you can certainly get in. I did want to note, there is so much of the gameplay on show that we've discussed over the recent weeks about how good the new Call of Duty is. It's all on show here in Warzone. So if you still haven't been deciding to spend the money on it, you can pick up Warzone 2.0 for free and you'll see all the weapons, you'll feel how it plays, you'll see it, you'll hear it, you'll taste it, you'll smell it, you'll sniff it, you'll scratch it, and you'll know if it's for you. I think it's a thing of beauty. It's a product that's free, and if you are installing it for free from scratch, it's about 50 gigs on PlayStation and about 60 on Xbox. That's it for me, and I take it you boys haven't played, so there's no questions and we'll move on.
Yeah, we can move on. I've got a day off tomorrow, so I might be able to just download it and we can jump in and play some multi.
Give me a call when you're ready, mate. I'll be there with you. Game 4 this evening is Somerville. Is it Superman or not? Unky, over to you.
No, definitely no Superman here. We have Somerville. This one is it came to Game Pass, I think, yesterday. So definitely no excuse to not at least give it a go. But it comes from Jumpship Studios, so co-founded by Dino Paddy. So you might remember him as the bloke that brought us Limbo and Inside. So if you're into sort of those puzzle sort of 2D games that are very good. I'm a massive fan of Limbo and Inside. This one opens up really, really well. Art style is impeccable. Graphics are just a really cool art style, as you'll see on the screen. My problem with it is it sort of moved to a pseudo 3D plane, so it's no longer just a left to right 2D sort of platformer puzzle solver. It's now got this sort of 3D aspect to it, which can make it really hard to play. I found as much as I was enjoying the graphics and the story of the opening part of the game, it was very frustrating to sort of move between those planes and move my character around and solve those puzzles. Like the puzzles themselves were enjoyable and the interaction and the physics and stuff on display within the level were quite cool, but it was just trying to navigate that 3D space with sort of a 2D character that made it very difficult to play and sort of hidden my enjoyment a little bit of the game, whereas Limbo and Inside was so tight when it came to their gameplay that it was really enjoyable to solve that stuff. So, I think it's lost a little bit by going to that 3D sort of play now and making it a little bit harder to play, and the graphics, as good as they are, sort of lose a bit in that frustration of trying to figure out where you are within a level. But that's probably my most negative part of it. I've probably put in maybe 45 minutes, so I've sort of passed the initial tutorial stage as such with the character. But it is very intriguing. It's a really cool way they open up the game. Like, it's just really cool credits, rolling credits and graphics as you come through. You're just a family in a car and they fall asleep on a sofa and wake up to sort of the baby wakes up, and the tutorial is essentially just you playing as a baby, which I thought was quite cute, stumbling around this dark house and trying to figure out how the mechanics work. And you don't really get told how to play the game. Like, I think all you're really doing is using a joystick and the A button to interact with things, and then you're sort of either pulling away or pushing different objects within the level to actually sort of negotiate that part. But then all hell breaks loose. It's not really spoilers to take.
No, don't spoil it because I don't know. I'm at the moment where hell's breaking loose, but I don't know what the cause is. Please don't spoil it for me. I've only played 10 minutes.
That's what I mean. I'm not spoiling because it literally is the start of the game where all hell breaks loose, and all of a sudden you go from like a nice country little town to a whole bunch of like weird looking, space looking things coming down and crashing through the house, and you don't know what's going. And then I'm assuming you've woken up as the dad now, Troy.
Yes, yeah, I've played. I've played the dad and solved the first 2 or 3 puzzles. I popped an achievement which I really appreciated as the dad. I don't know if you popped that one.
No, it was at the cleaning up after your kid or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did appreciate that one. I was going to bring that up. It was quite a cool trophy. I'd sort of just like walked into the kitchen, closed some drawers, and got an achievement. I was like, yes.
The only problem with that achievement, mate, is it said like Dad of the Year or something was the name of the achievement. So It instantly made me want to go play God of War.
Oh, there we go. We're going to be contender for best dad in a video game. That being said, he has lost his whole family and doesn't know where they are. So I think that's the whole purpose of the game, is trying to find out what's happened to your family and what this whole invasion thing's about. So as I said, it does have some pretty cool gameplay mechanics. It's just I found myself getting stuck on puzzles, and it wasn't even so much that I was pretty sure I knew what I had to do, but just couldn't do it for the fact that I was just either in the wrong spot or just doing the wrong thing, whether that's me as a gamer not being smart enough to figure out the puzzle. But for me, it was more the control issues. I'm not sure, Troy, you've played just a little bit. Did you have any of the same issues I had?
I did, mate. Initially, the thing I'll note is right here. You can see it's playing. This is the first time you get the toddler, and they put the little A above your head for I can interact with A. But what they don't tell you is that they only show that A prompt the first 5 times maybe, and then after that, as you were saying, mate, it's on you to hit A and then move the left thumbstick around to interact. But in my opinion, they should never have shown me the prompt, because the prompt wasn't coming up. It took me a bit of wandering around before it occurred to me, oh wait, just keep hitting the A and using the left stick. So I'm like, I think I would have been better off if they never put the A prompt above the head. And to your early point, mate, it does take you right back to limbo and inside. And once you get in that headspace of the limbo and inside, I think it all unravels. In a good way. You're like, oh no, that's right. It's that kind of puzzle solving. And then as soon as that happened for me, the switch flicked in my head. And once I got in that mode, I was fine, because these guys are the kings of light leads the way. Anytime you're confused or lost, just look for the light in the level and go toward it. You're going straight towards the answer. That's the biggest tip for these type of games. But to your point, mate, I've only put 10 minutes in it, but I've absolutely loved it. And for everyone out there, it's included in Xbox Game Pass. That's where I'm playing it. It's a 10 gig download. And if you've enjoyed those other games, only 10 minutes in, but it feels exactly like going home to one of those great old games, but it's a new take on it. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Bully, is this one got your eye? Do you think you'll be going hands-on, or is God of War just too large an obstacle?
Oh, I think the issue is I've got at the moment, I'd go onto the holiday, but I've taken that holiday, I think, at the worst time of the year, because I've had this game come out, God of War's come out, I've still got Sonic to go to, as we've already talked about, Modern Warfare and the Warzone expansion, all the rest of that. There's another couple of games that I'm keen to jump into, one of which we'll talk about shortly. That backlog, which I was talking to Unky about before, seems to be piling up and up and up and up. And it's just getting worse and worse. But 100%, this will be one that I'm keen to jump into as well.
I haven't looked at the official time, but I was listening to a podcast earlier today. It was Defining Duke, Last Stand Media podcast, and they were saying this is about a 5-hour playthrough, which to me sounded perfect. I'm like, yeah, an inside at 5 hours. It'll be the great knuckle reset. I'll have to put down the God of War on the dual sets and then slip on back into the Xbox Series X and pick up the non-knuckle destroying controller and slot a few hours into this, I think, over the weekend, and I'll be done with it by next week, I suspect. I'm keen to get hands on it. And the only other thing I wanted to mention about this game was this must be, and I don't even know which engine it was in, but this has got to be built in the same engine as Midnight Fight Express, doesn't it? That art style, to me, looks like almost the same people worked on it.
No, it's a very pretty art style, and that's one thing. It could keep me sort of playing the game, because I am very much drawn to very unique art styles like that, and it does make me play games. There's one thing I liked about what was the game we spoke about last week? Monkey Island. I really sort of enjoyed that art style and sort of went back to that this week because I started playing a game. It's not on our list tonight. It's also a Game Pass game that came out this week called Pentiment by Bethesda. I started playing that, and it's a lot of text-based sort of adventure game. But just
thank you for telling me to pass on that then.
So it's a lot of reading and stuff like that. But I just sort of wanted to play a story-based game like that, and I found myself going back to Monkey Island because it is fully voiced, whereas Pentiment is literally just all reading. So as cool as that game is, I can see it's getting good reviews. I mean, IGN somehow gave it a 10, whereas GameSpot gave it a 6. So you can see the parity just between the two big reviewers right there.
What is going on with IGN?
Yeah, like a very weird game to get a 10.
A 4 or 5, didn't they?
They've just constantly been missing all year.
Yeah, so very odd that was reviewed at a 10. I mean, granted, if you get the right person reviewing that game that is into sort of all the history and all that kind of stuff and really wants that experience, I can see them giving it a 10. But
either that or they pocketed the right amount of money.
No, that's true. I mean, there has been a lot of positive reviews for it, but if the game's not for you, it's not going to be for you. Like I loaded it up quickly to see it. Cool art style, cool premise. I found myself sort of literally just jumping straight over to Guybrush Threepwood instead because I preferred his stupidity and stuff over a serious tale being told between these like storybooks, which again was a cool premise and the way it all sort of works and that, but it wasn't sort of the experience I kind of want now, especially as I've been playing like 20 hours of God of War, which is a completely different experience to what something like Pentiment was doing. But Somerville, on the other hand, with its art style and the way it's telling its story and stuff, I could see myself jumping back into that. I was just sort of, it's very hard to play any game at the moment when you've got God of War there. Bully, you're about to find
out. Bully, just before I hand it over to you, mate, hadn't lost it. Somerville, what was the other game that came out? No, it was Monkey Island, Return to Monkey Island. Billy, you were saying last week you're a fan, of the PC games back in the day, as I was, the original Monkey Islands. And I just wanted to make you aware, Billy, and any other viewers out there who are Monkey Island fans, there was a fantastic podcast this week on the Game Developers Notebook where they interview the two leads behind Return to Monkey Island. They tell some great behind-the-scenes stories of that game's development. If you're into the game, I highly recommend you give that one a listen. One more time, that was Game Maker's Notebook. Give it a listen. The Return to Monkey Island episode was fantastic. Bully, any thoughts or other comments on Somerville?
No, I don't think so, and I don't think we've got Pentiment on the list. And I know you've mentioned it, Unky, but that's another one from Obsidian. I think I'm not sure if that was mentioned, but they're throwing some hits out at the moment, and as you said, this is getting some pretty good reviews. But we'll without jumping too far ahead, we'll discuss in the news items some of the Game Awards nominations, and I think disappointingly, Pentiment, despite the favourable sort of looks it's getting, doesn't seem to have get a look in any of that, despite the fact that it made the cutoff by sort of 3 or 4 days. It seems to have gone missing, and in fact, the final list of nominees was released, I think, the day before Pentiment come out. So a little bit interesting for that one that they did the release of the finalists 3 or 4 days before the actual official cutoff date, which cost Pentiment as well. So
I think it did because I could see it sort of slotting into one of those best narratives or something like that, which is
well. Hold on, boys, pump your brakes. Let's hit that one in the news segment. While we're still in games, interrogation and deliberation, let's just briefly touch on Game 5, another Game Pass one, and this is Vampire Survive, and it's been tickling me pink. I've absolutely enjoyed my time with it. It's left stick to move. It auto fires. You kill the mobs, you pick up the blue gems or green gems, you level up, you unlock new powers, new attacks, new weapons, and then occasionally they drop a treasure chest, and it's like you're at the pokies and the lights and the sounds go off. The, what's the word I'm looking for? The jobbies in your brain fire and you get all excited and happy about it. Endorphins, that's the one I'm looking for. Unky, give us your thoughts on Vampire Survive, mate.
Mate, I had no idea what kind of game this was. I think even in the description when you're going to purchase it or get it through Game Pass, it even says a minimal gameplay experience or something like that. I'm like, okay. I thought it was like a twin-stick shooter going in. And so my initial thoughts initially like, what is this? All I'm doing is walking around the screen. How engaging could this be? The answer to that question is very, because it does not take very long until you start picking up some items and stuff, and your one whip that you've got that can go one way all of a sudden goes two ways. You're shooting fireballs. You've got a Bible surrounding you. You've got this axe. You've got garlic that protects you from, initial contact with enemies. You're finding these treasure chests that are like, lighting you up like the pokies and stuff, and they're giving you money to unlock abilities. So it's semi-roguelite in that fact, as well as you are constantly getting money to upgrade your character, unlock new characters. There are 4 characters you can unlock. I think you've got Antonio, Imelda, Pasqualina, and Gennaro, which I'm yet to unlock the final guy, which won't take long. But they all start with different abilities. But I think, from what I can tell, is each character has the ability to unlock that other character's ability within the game. Yeah. So Antonio will start with the whip, but Imelda might start with the wand. But Imelda's sort of with her wand, you might pick up the whip as you go and upgrade the whip as you go as well. So you can go from like having maybe 50 enemies on a screen to, at one point, I think you hit maybe level 15 to 16 of upgrading. You got to collect these little blue orbs, and as you can see at the top of the screen there, it's sort of every time you collect enough blue orbs, it'll give you a chance to upgrade one of those abilities.
Yes.
Or add a new ability, which again, you never know. They're all random. So so once you do that, you get to level 17. Is like, I reckon maybe it looks like there's about 1,000 skeletons on screen at once, and you're just trying to navigate your way through so you're not getting swarmed by those enemies. You can see swarms of bats there that'll occasionally hit the screen as well. But if you can hit those with your weapons, then you're giving yourself a fair chance to unlock all of those blue orbs to give yourself some more experience. So it's just got a really good loop of gameplay, and you find yourself just getting addicted to walking around and unlocking these abilities, and the fact that they can then feed into like a skill tree where you've got maybe 20 odd different things you can upgrade. So the first things I went and sort of spent my money on was movement speed. So now I've got sort of level 2 movement speed when I start a game, so I can move a lot faster, which is very handy in this game when you've got to sort of negotiate enemies. That's one of the main things you're trying to do. So, but you've got different things there like magnet, which will obviously attract the blue orbs close to you, and luck, duration for your weapons, speed of your weapons, cooldown of some of your abilities as well, more armor, all that kind of stuff. So it sort of feeds into the gameplay. So the longer you play it, the more money you get, you can unlock these permanent upgrades. So it's just I did not expect to like this game at all, but it's one of those ones that even if you want to grab yourself a beer and just play the game with one hand, you can, because that's all you really need, and you don't need to concentrate. If you want to play this while watching a podcast, you can as well, because literally there's no story to speak of. You're literally just walking around this, it seems like an endless map. I don't think I've actually hit the edge of it once. There's just no matter where you go, there's just tons of enemies, and they're quite creative, even though they're graphics wise, but they've got pretty creative, like giant praying mantises and stuff in there. It's cool.
There's at least 5 levels. I think there might be 7. I've unlocked, this is level 1, and there's level 2 that's like in a library, but it's and this one is like open in all directions. To your point, mate, I haven't hit any wall anywhere. It just goes on forever, it feels. But level 2, I can say it's in like a library, and it's got like a hard north and south edge, but it appears to go left and right or east and west forever. You're forever going through this massive library.
Swarmed by a shitload of it can be quite
gets chaotic.
If you've got the right abilities, you can sort of work your way in. If you've got the garlic, if you've got the protection shield around you, you can sort of make your way around there without dropping too much health. But you can easily go from feeling really comfortable in this game to being not so comfortable very, very quickly. And it's part of the fun of the whole thing, and finding out what abilities you're going to unlock as you play through the game is quite fun as well. And as those treasure chests, those endorphins get going when those treasures going up, and you're earning yourself $800 at a time, just opening a chest and getting a new ability. It's a lot of fun. I can see why a lot of people are sort of speaking about this little indie darling towards the end of the year, which is weird. This one hasn't got any nods in any of the Game of the Year awards, as we'll speak about later, but I'm surprised it hasn't, because this is a lot of fun.
It is. And the other thing I'll say to your point earlier, mate, of being able to play it one-handed, I can tell you it works beautifully with the old man-friendly arcade stick. This is the only, like you see here, I get up to level 20 before I eventually get overrun. But the only way I did that was with the arcade stick. Playing on a standard controller, I was lucky to pass level 7. As soon as it was on the arcade stick, bam, I was running through it. Unky Dunky, if you recall back to your time with, what was it, IAI, and that, you remember the minefield you had to navigate through, and on the controller it was pretty tough, but as soon as you're on the arcade stick, it was just the letter S, no worries, I'm up and I'm out. The same is so true of this game. It's an absolute joy to play on the arcade stick. I couldn't recommend it highly enough. Bully, I know you haven't had a chance to go hands on, mate, but how does all this sound and look to you?
Oh, it looks fantastic, and I know I've seen some messages flying around it during the week while I was away from you guys and others. As I said, I've been jumping on the social media and having a look, and I can't wait to play it. I did try to do a bit of cloud gaming while I was away with the old Xbox. The Wi-Fi I had out in the middle of Kakadu, which for those who aren't in Australia is basically outback Australia. There is, I don't think, apart from the campground that we were staying at, there was nothing inside about 100 kilometres where we were, and certainly not a lot of reception on the mobile tower. So trying to do the cloud gaming, I couldn't even get Return to Monkey Island running, and that was not something that you need to be having decent lag on, or lack of lag on, and movement speed on. So couldn't jump into it, but again, that's on the list of 5 or 6 games that I've got to get into this week. So we'll see how we go before I have to go back to work next week, whether I can fit this one in as well.
Yeah, and as you can see here, for anyone that's still sitting on the fence, watch this. I died at level 20, and you're about to see a waterfall, of achievements pop. This game, I think it must have about 600 achievements, all worth 5 points each. But to that point of just keeping your endorphins running, you finish a round, it's ding, 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 ding. Oh, more achievements. Put me back in.
You beat me to it. I remember the first game. I reckon I popped maybe 6 achievements with the very first game I played. I just kept popping. I'm like, is this going to stop at any point? And I think every game since I've actually, I've had an achievement every run I've had this game. And I reckon I had 10 runs, but every time I've had a different achievement. I think the most recent one was kill 5,000 enemies. So it's, they keep those endorphins running, that's for sure.
They do indeed. With no further points, boys, I suggest we go kick in a newsroom door. What say ye?
Let's do it.
You have the right to remain newsworthy. Now, top of the order this evening, headline from Video Games Chronicles: Sony will reportedly offer 25% off PlayStation Plus subscriptions for Black Friday. It's almost like they're shedding users because they're ignoring the service. Unky, what can you tell us?
What's that? They're charging less for something at Sony. That doesn't make sense. Are you sure this? Have you read that correctly?
Well, to be fair, with what they've been trotting out lately, it's costing them nothing to run it. So they're still making it.
No, that's fair. What I want to point out there is, I don't know if any of you noticed, that we were supposed to. Well, we did get a whole bunch of new classics games on Ultimate this week, which include like Kingdom Hearts and a whole bunch of stuff. But they were supposed to include the Ratchet and Clank games, but I have not seen them on the service yet.
I've got it. I know why. They added them to PlayStation 3, which they haven't rolled out in Australia, mate, because there's no PS3 streaming in Australia. Their list of like 30 releases dropped to about 2 for us. Crying Jim Ryan's just putting the thumb screws in every chance he gets. He must hate Aussies. I think he's got something against us.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Like, those are the games that if anything out of this service, I would want to go back and play some of these old Ratchets, because I don't think I even finished them back in the day. But having played, I think it's the remaster of 2016 Ratchet and Clank based on the movie, plus the Ratchet and Clank, the more recent one, I really enjoy those games. I wouldn't mind going back to play them. But the fact that I don't even get that as a part of my service, and I'm probably paying equal, if not more, than what other people are paying for this service, it seems ridiculous that we are paying this much. So, how does it work? Do we get a discount of our service that we're already paying for, or is this new subscribers?
We get less and we pay more for it, mate. That's how Jim Ryan loves Australia.
Yeah, cool. I believe in the games releasing this week, we have a game that I'm pretty sure is just based off Jim Ryan, but we'll get to that very soon.
Can I just confirm then, Unky, are you definitely tomorrow going to launch Warzone on Xbox to buy the $15 Battle Pass just to ensure Jim Ryan gets a few less nickels?
You know what? I think I might have to.
Yes, I love your commitment to it. Sorry, I think I cut you off fully. What were you saying, mate, about this story?
Oh, no, I think that was about it. But the service, what did it launch basically across the board in June? So we're 5.5 months in. I was really optimistic about it to start with, and the longer it's gone on, and I think I'm not the only one here, because quite clearly we saw in the last couple of weeks they've shed some 2 million odd subscribers since they've relaunched it. It is going backwards to what it was, and they're trying to charge a premium and put it up against Game Pass. Well, I'll tell you what, Game Pass is absolutely at the moment leaving this for dead, and I understand that they're slightly different models, but having said that, if we have a look, and if you check out our Twitter account at Geek Aloud, and I put up a chart there the other day that the Xbox Series X is actually performing fairly well, comparatively speaking, in relation to sales of consoles when you compare that to the PS4 and the Xbox One. And I think the main reason for that is they, as in Xbox, have flipped the script on the consumer side of things. They're massively consumer friendly. They're doing everything they can to entice people over. They're providing a very good quality product, in my opinion, for a very reasonable price. And the comparative to that is whatever version of PS Plus you want is just, even if you had access to those PS3 titles, what they're releasing is borderline trash.
Yeah.
That what they're throwing out, we were promised, when you talk about the classics, I think most of us were sort of looking at PS1, PS2 titles, which really haven't eventuated beyond a couple of ones early going. And I think even it was either in August or September that we had no classic titles released whatsoever. If you can't even bring one or two a month, which was what my expectation was, is that you have a couple of those classics a month, a couple of older, and I say older, but newer system PS4, PS5 games that maybe come out 6 or 12 months ago that they throw on the service now for free and that sort of stuff. And they keep building on it, but they're just not doing that. And taking those, I know, if you're in the US market or in some of the European markets or the Japanese market that do have that streaming service for the PS3 stuff, you might be getting a bit more value for money out of it. But for the rest of the world that doesn't have access to it, and I can't understand why you can't set that up in Australia, have a server based in Australia somewhere, and have it running.
You want Jim Ryan to spend money in Australia? Get out of here.
Well, maybe we can release the Chris Isaac special. Reworking of old Jimmy Ryan's Crying and get some royalties out of that, and then put the royalties towards a bloody server in Australia. Christ, I don't think we need that much. I don't think it'll take that much. So again, pull your finger out, Jim. I've had enough of this rubbish. And you're sending PlayStation down the toilet, and Xbox coming for you. It's coming for you hard. And if you look at the sales, they're not that far behind. They're going to get you.
They are. So what I'm hearing is it's Xbox Game Pass, PlayStation Hard Pass. Speaking of Hard Pass PSVR 2 pre-orders have started, and if I've done my internet investigating correctly, I don't think those pre-orders are going too fast. I'm seeing a lot of pre-orders still available, so I don't think they're the hot ticket item Jimmy Cryan was hoping for. Unky, what do you got for us?
Well, I had a little bit to say about the last story, but I can't go past that. I can't go past that great segue. So we're going to move straight on because you did so well with it. So you're already forgiven. No, I mean, some people pre-ordered this. I think maybe 5 people. Bully, were you one of those 5?
Oh, the rumor has it.
Oh, mate. Whoa. Give us your best whale, Bully. Give us your best whale.
Well, to be fair, you're nickel and diming your whale points out on, $129 remakes of remakes. Hoarding my whale points.
Mate, fuck, you may as well take Jim Ryan out for dinner, mate. You just paid for his next car.
The only reason I'll be taking Jimmy Ryan out is to slap him in the next week.
So what you're saying is you're an undercover agent right now that you're going to purchase his thing, but then we're going to slap him straight to his stupid face. I like it. So you're doing this out of spite, not because you want one.
Look, to be fair, I'll throw out my reasoning behind it is, I think it actually looks pretty good from what it's got. I think it's got a pretty good offering in terms of games on or close to release. I think the biggest issue that everyone's got, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the price of the thing, which is more than the console itself. And I get that. I understand that. But if you break it down, the way I sort of looked at it and made my decision of it is, and I'm not here to, to pat old Jimmy's wallet any more than what it is, but I sort of look at it and go, if you're looking at 2 4K lenses essentially in that thing that are displaying at 120 refresh rate, if you compare that to a television that's doing the same thing, you're paying more for a television. So I sort of look at it and say, what's the tech specs that are in it? Yes, it's pretty good. Is it worth the 850 Australian or I think it's 550 or 600 American dollars. Is it worth that off the bat? I don't know.
Now, I'm going to have to raise it, Paul. You do wear glasses. How's this going to work with your eyesight with two 4K screens directly up against those beautiful eyes of yours?
For that, if you've never tried it, Troy might be able to help you. The original PSVR actually works quite well with glasses. You can fit them inside the.
So you know they're going to have completely stuffed it this time around.
Oh, well, we'll see.
Well, if I came with you on that point,
you and your four friends.
My biggest thing is I sort of look at it and go, there's negatives, there's positives in both of it. I sort of looked at it and went, well, how did we go with the sales of the PS5, and how hard were they to get? Yes, you've got to make a call on the morning that it gets released. Are you going to pre-order it or are you not? If you wait around to see how it's going to sell and whether they're going to be available, etc., what some people did with the PS5, they're gone, and you're not going to get them for 6 or 12 months. So I guess you can call it dumb, you can call it silly, you can call it whatever you want, you can call it overpriced. I sort of looked at it and went, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring, I'll pre-order it. If in a month or two's time I sort of look at it and go, no, I've actually changed my mind, or what I'm seeing is not really living up to what I'm looking at, I'll just cancel the pre-order. That's as simple as that, which is where I sort of look at it. At least you've got your hat in the ring, and then you've got a couple of months to make that decision, rather than umming and ahhing on the morning of the pre-orders going up and saying, do I, don't I, and then maybe missing out, maybe not.
And otherwise you've had your last holiday with your wife. So mate, I'll spend my money. I'll get you some accommodation from my place, and you can bring it around here. We can have a crack. What do you say?
Well, I did say that to you boys. I said I'm going to need a couch to sleep on, and I did note that you said, "Yeah, I can offer you the couch. Just bring it round." That's okay. I can't afford any games for it now, so you're going to have to apply those.
That's okay. I can, because I didn't fork out the money for the actual VR headset itself. So I've got tons of money for games. That's fine. We'll make it work.
On the plus side, Unky, there's only 3 games to buy for it, mate, so you'll have some change.
That's true. I will. Now I'm ready to go.
All right, then I suggest we're on to story 3. Now, this is the big one, so pop your bag of popcorn. Unky Dunky, over to you for the Game Awards, mate. Tell us things.
Mate, we've got the Game Award nominees this year, so we've had quite a few come through here. So we're going to go through the list of our nominees this year. We're going to say not what we want to win, but what we think is going to win at the Game Awards. So at the top of the list, we do have Game of the Year. So we'll have to start with that. I did want to go the other way, but the way the article's going, it started with Game of the Year. So on the list, we have Plague Tale Requiem, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. My thoughts are it's really a 2-horse race here, but I'm happy to take a late runner being a game about a cat, if you like. Let's face it, that's not going to happen.
I'm pretty sure I didn't see any cats in a Plague Tale though. There was just rats.
Do we know? Have we read anywhere? What did Annapurna have to pay to secure this nomination?
Yeah, not sure. I don't know how Stray. There's a number of games I would have put before Stray in this list, in that Game of the Year conversation, Sifu being one of them, but that's okay. I mean, Stray starts with S. Why not go with that? Anyway, I can see Xenoblade Chronicles 3, great game. It's got a great market in terms of people that do like that game. I've played it. I really liked it. It's not going to hold a candle to something like Elden Ring, God of War. Horizon Forbidden West, again, you came out the wrong year. Just release a Horizon when there's no Zelda or Elden Ring to compete with. That's all you got to do, and you might have a chance. But 2-horse race for my liking. Elden Ring, God of War. I think we did about 5 shows running, Troy, maybe even 6, where all we did was speak about Elden Ring. So I've got to remind myself that all we could talk about it for that massive period of time was Elden Ring, and just how good that game was and what it was doing for the industry and open world games. But then you get the late runner in God of War Ragnarok. That's just is it recency bias to the fact that we're playing a game that's this good right now towards the end of the year? Maybe, but by the time I finish it, I might have different things to say. But Elden Ring, I know you obviously platinumed it. I put in over 120 hours in that game, and it's a game I enjoy the grind of like grinding out a character, and that gameplay stuff really sort of feeds into sort of the way I like to play games, and a lot of people aren't into that kind of stuff. So I could see this list maybe God of War taking the win, but I think there's a lot of people out there that really did enjoy Elden Ring. I think people that don't even like Souls games were playing and speaking about Elden Ring at the time. So for my mind, I think Elden Ring may win Game of the Year this year. You boys?
It's going to come down to Elden Ring is just pure gameplay. If you're going to vote for gameplay, Elden Ring's got it, I reckon. But if you're voting for everything we've said, emotional resonance, storytelling, moments of humor and levity, like God of War has everything else. And I'm not in any way dissing the gameplay in God of War. Excuse me. It's just that God of War triggers the old man hands, and so it's such a barrier to entry. That's it. If Game of the Year goes to best story, God of War wins. If Game of the Year goes to best gameplay, Elden Ring wins, and it's going to be a fight between those two for my money. How about you, Bully?
Well, it's funny when you talk about the story element of things, because I know there's been quite a blow up on Twitter about people defending Elden Ring and its narrative, I guess. We'll get to that down the track, but in terms of comparing it with a narrative style against God of War, that there was people that were really, it's got a narrative there. It's just not slapping you over the head. You've got to actually go and find it and read about it and all that sort of stuff. I'm tend to be in the camp of that's to me not a narrative, and you might be picking at hairs here, but I sort of go that's more of a lore that you're reading about and getting into and that sort of stuff. So when you talk about a complete sort of picture, and I know I haven't played God of War, but from what I've read about it and from what you guys have said about it, I think it'd be really hard to beat. And I agree with you, Unky. I think it's that thing that Elden Ring came out in February. We're looking at 8-9 months by the time or longer than that by the time the Game Awards actually run and we get a winner. I just think that by that stage, God of War would have been a month old. People would have had the time to play through it and finish it, get to the end of the story and all that sort of stuff. And it's right there with them. And it's one of those things of trying to harken back. And Horizon's probably a bit of a victim of this as well, is that those two, both Elden Ring and Horizon, as good as they are, sort of fall away to that, was that this year? Or I'm only remembering it was this year because somebody told me. It's not something that's fresh in your head. When I'm looking through that list, though, I will throw a dark one at you, and I'm going to go Plague Tale for a variety of reasons, but I reckon they're a dark horse in that one. I know that the two big ones that everyone's looking at is Elden Ring and God of War, but I reckon a Plague Tale's one in there that you need to watch out for.
Yeah, that's a fair call, mate. I love it. All right, Unky, what's number 2?
Plague Tale doesn't stand a chance. Best game direction. We have this is the effectively the award that usually goes to the game that doesn't get Game of the Year. So the consolation prize. We also have Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Immortality. Good to see that one in there, and Stray somehow also managed to slither its way in there as well. But best game direction.
Their marketing budget must have been massive.
Just
runner up then, God of War or Elden Ring?
That's what I think. Whichever one wins Games of the Year, I think the other one's winning Best Game Direction.
Oh, no, Plague Tale's going to win. So who's
No, just going off those two alone, Unky, I reckon they give God of War Game of the Year and Game Direction to Elden Ring, because that game is just immaculate. From a game direction standpoint, they introduced so many new mechanics. They revolutionized so many core gameplay mechanics. You could praise them specifically for game direction in a way that you couldn't God of War Ragnarok, because it just feels like God of War 2018 finally polished. So the game direction would have to go to God of War in 2018, I reckon. So using that tip, mate, I reckon we could call it that way.
No, I think you could be right. I mean, the other thing that goes to Elden Ring's advantage, I think Sekiro actually won the Game Awards Game of the Year in 2019 when it was sort of that hodgepodge year of quite a few games. So obviously a lot of people do like those style of games. So I could see that's where Elden Ring might get its plaudits from the people voting. So yeah, so we'll see. But next we've got Best Narrative. We've got Plague Tale, Requiem, Elden Ring. There's the argument there is Best Narrative. But God of War, Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, and Immortality. Again, I could see God of War, Ragnarok taking Best Narrative in this category.
Yeah, I reckon this, Bully, is where Requiem might come up on top. But yeah, to the emotional resonance of God of War, Ragnarok, yeah, I see that one as an easy win for this category.
Well, it's funny you say that, because if you're comparing a Plague Tale Requiem to the first one. As much as again, without spoilers, but the back end of Plague Tale Requiem, so the new one, does has some things that pull at the heartstrings, and really, the narrative around the back end of it is fantastic. I actually think the original one, the story in that and the way it played out was a lot better. So I think, as much as I love that game, I don't think it quite hits the mark of the first one, and therefore I don't. To my mind, I think I agree with you. It depends whether you call Elden Ring stuff a narrative or a lore, or how you want to play it. And then I guess I could probably speak to it a bit more next week with God of War Ragnarok as well in terms of the narrative. But I think out of that list there, I think it's got to be out of those two for the best narrative. I would have thought.
Fair call. Now, best art direction, Unky. Who have we got?
We have Elden Ring again, God of War again, Horizon again, Scorn makes it in there, a late entry, and Stray again just keeps hitting up those noms. But I don't know if Stray's actually going to win anything in any of these nominations. I'd be very surprised if it does. Not bagging on it too much, but it's up against some pretty stiff competition when it comes to what we're looking at. But we played a little bit of Scorn, all of us, I think. I mean, we can obviously say that it has some pretty decent art direction. That's about all it's got going for it. There's not a whole lot of gameplay that's in that game that's compelling for what I played anyway. I think some of the puzzle stuff in God of War still outweighs stuff that was playing in Scorn, which potentially is just a puzzle game, really. But its whole premise was the way it looked and stuff, and it did have some pretty cool art direction, and that's kind of all it was. But I find it really hard to go past maybe Elden Ring with this, because I think we spoke about it for weeks on end, just the different, for lack of a better term, biomes you go to in Elden Ring. It just continuously surprises you with how well that world's designed for an open world. There's not one part of the world that looks similar. It's just so well designed, and you drop down the elevator and all of a sudden it looks like you're in space, but you're underground. Like, the art direction of that game is just absolutely out of this world, and I think the fact that it's so big and so vast and continuously giving you something different to look at, the enemy design as well, it's the boss design. Everything in that game is just so well designed and good to look at, that's what drives you to sort of play your 100 plus hours, because you're always constantly looking at something different. And whether it's the tree in a distance, or even just the vast vistas of like the plains that you're in, or you're in a desert, you're in a forest, it's snowing, like it's just continuously changing throughout that whole adventure, even though it is a 100 plus hour game. It's just, the art direction of that game is just second to none.
Are there any orange trees in it?
Mate, I think there might be some orange trees. And if Elden Ring was around at the time of our very first standoff back in episode 1, it might have taken the cake. But I can't even remember what that one. I think we had three options for orange trees, and we're up to we're doing stuff with 10 things in them now. So I did. So no, let's put a late entrant in for best orange tree and give it to Elden Ring.
Definitely. I reckon Stray's marketing team dropped, maybe a cool $1 million on the Game Awards. They picked themselves up a 3-nomination, 1-win combo pack, and I reckon best art direction is where Stray's just going to quietly pay for their win.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's not a bad game, and the art and style of that game's not up there. It's actually pretty cool. I remember playing that game, and you've got the robot aesthetic and the sort of the eeriness of the neon lights, and you've got the sort of the normal earthly stuff going on as well. They contrast quite well between each other, but I just can't see it beating Elden Ring for best art direction.
That's when you'll know the money hat came out for it. Bully, any thoughts on art direction, mate?
Well, just before I get to that, I think you talk about Stray. Have they got something on Jim Ryan?
Yeah, they know his bank account number and they dropped him a cool $1 million.
I don't know if they paid him. I think they've got some sort of secret file on him that they're just sort of trotting that out going, you best.
Mate, Jim Ryan, he's a cat guy, that's all. does not own a dog, can confirm.
Yeah, I think he sent out a team bulletin, didn't he? To the effect.
No, I won't go there. Best art direction. I have to agree with you, Unky. Elden Ring is phenomenal. The minute that you step out into that open world after you do that sort of tutorial section, it's one of the few games.
Wait, was there a tutorial section?
Well, unless you skipped it because you went to the right.
I did.
Hey, Troy, there's a manual in shooting, yeah?
What?
I was waiting for where's that category? Best manual in a game. I was winner. But I was going to say that as soon as you step out into that open world, and I know we've all played the Soulsborne games before, and they're always graphically fantastic, and got a great sense of putting a world together and all that sort of stuff. And but this has taken it to a whole nother level. Like you get out into that open world area, you start exploring, and then you come across, decayed buildings and old castles and forts, and then you go to a graveyard, and you go to a swamp, and all that sort of stuff. And just the detail in it, and the atmosphere, I think, is probably the best way to put it. The atmosphere that it drops you in the middle of. And you can take it, even if you took away all the enemies and how hard they are and fighting your way through all that, just the atmosphere of walking through some of those areas, and you just sort of look around, and you look one way and you think, oh, that's amazing, and you look the other way, and off in the distance you can see something as well, and you just sort of go, well, that's amazing as well. And then you get into those smaller confined areas, and each one of them is just amazingly crafted, and the way it looks, and all that sort of stuff. So I don't think, again, haven't played God of War, but I don't think, from what I've seen art-wise, I don't think it's got a leg to stand on. Elden Ring's got this in the bag.
I agree with that, mate. Unless, of course, Stray paid for the victory.
Well, I don't know, because Jimmy Ryan's nothing's coming out of his pocket, so
indeed,
that's not going to help the nominees at all.
Score and music. We have
best score and music.
We have a Plague Tale Requiem, Elden Ring, God of War, Metal Hellsinger, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Another one, I think the music in Elden Ring slaps. I think from that opening title screen to the final boss fight, I think that that game has some pretty epic soundtrack to it. But I think God of War as well. Having played 25 hours now, that game, I think it's like tone and everything throughout that whole game. And when music hits, it hits so well. And I can't fault how that game makes you feel at any given time due to its score. Having played Metal Hellsinger as well, like that game's obviously just based around music being a rhythm game. We spoke about the game. We're sort of middling on the game itself, but we can't argue that it does implement music and score quite well. But I think you have to be it's quite a niche sort of musical style in that game that if you're not into that style of music, then you're probably not going to vote for that game. Plague Tale again. I think they set the mood pretty well with music in that. Bully could probably speak to it more because he sort of finished the game and sent it all the way through. So where the music sort of ramps up towards the end and helps sort of bring some of that emotional resonance. But Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I was very impressed with just the ambient music as you play through that game. And again, it's very epic the way they sort of utilize music throughout that game as well. And even being a Switch game with it doesn't have the graphics. It's not like God of War to really sell an experience. Like obviously God of War, you're looking at easily some of the industry defining graphics in a game along with that music. So, that's obviously bolstered by that. Whereas something like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is not really relying too heavily on how it looks, but to convey that through just its music alone, I think it's got a sort of a bigger hill to climb than something like God of War. But and I can see that sort of doing pretty well. But I just think a lot more people are going to have played Elden Ring and God of War, and will probably be voting for those two games again. I think this is their year. I think they're going to sort of wipe the floor with a lot of these games. But again, it might be those times where people are like, oh, I voted for God of War, I voted for Elden Ring for all these other ones. Let's give another game a go. So I could see that maybe going to something like a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in this category.
Yeah, that's fair calls. I've got no additional thoughts on that one. Bully, anything from you, score and music style?
Oh, in terms of the score of music, one I'm actually surprised it didn't get a look in was the Shredder's Revenge. The
Stray?
Stray. The Turtles game that got released mid-year.
Oh,
I thought the
Bully,
soundtrack
good call.
That was amazing. And I know Unky was the same. We both of us, I think, jumped on Spotify because they had the OST on that as well.
Yes.
We're sort of pumping that on the way to work. And just on that as well, I think it's one that music to me in a game is one that you almost don't recognize while you're playing it. But it's only when you sort of go back through a section or you listen to that music later on that you realize how impactful it is going along with the gameplay. And when you talk about stepping out of the game and wanting to go away and listen to that music, Plague Tale for me, I found myself this week as we were driving around at the Outback NT was throwing on Plague Tale Requiem and listening to some of that music, and it's quite haunting, some of it. and obviously the game's set in sort of 1300s France and that sort of era, but it really takes you back into it, even when you're not playing the game and looking at the visuals and that sort of stuff. Just listening to the music that goes with it instantly takes you back to that game, and you can be drawn back into exploring the castles and exploring the towns and all that sort of stuff just by listening to the music. And there was one track that I remember listening to, and it was basically the track that accompanied the first time that you went into this new town that you go to and you visit through basically a market area, and it was sort of upbeat, but it had a couple of tones to it. And as soon as that song came on while I was driving around, I was instantly drawn back to that market area and exploring around that for the first time. So for me, if the music can drag you back into a game when you're a million miles away from it and that exact area and time and place that you're in, I think for me that just speaks volumes of how it is, even though when you're playing the game it doesn't necessarily sink in while you're playing it at the time, but it can drag you back there. So I know I'm a big fan of Plague Tale. There's other good ones there, but I think for mine, if they're going to win anything, that's the one that they're going to win.
That's great commentary, mate. I see no holes in your logic. Unky, best audio design, nominating IAI's weapon?
That was the word for worst sound effect in the history of video games, yeah. But this is a tough one because, there's a lot of games on here that I think are just the epitome of great audio design. Like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, we spoke about it last week, how you were obviously in my my studio, my gaming palace, and the sound design on Call of Duty is just every year it's great. But this year, I think just with the sound effects, the cleanness of it, the even just playing multiplayer, just hearing bullets whiz past you, like it's just insane. The attention to detail they've got in those games, the way weapons sound is ridiculous. The 3D audio through the Pulse headset is just insanely good. You could argue that yes, they've been doing it a while. It is sort of your more sort of real time sounds, and that's where I'm going to jump straight down to something like Horizon Forbidden West. I could see this game winning mainly for the fact that they're creating noises for robotic dinosaurs that don't exist in real life. So that's something that they actually have to create on top of something like you see Gran Turismo 7 on that list. That's that's cars and stuff. Yeah, like obviously you want them to sound like real cars, but that's a sound that exists in real life where robotic dinosaurs don't. God of War. I don't think this is going to win this award. As good as its sound design is, and as good as the acting is in it, as good as the sound effects are, we've seen it in 2018. They probably wouldn't have had to do a whole lot to sort of improve too much on what they already had. Elden Ring, I think it's going to win again. It's going to win plenty of other awards. I think you do see either a Modern Warfare 2 or even Horizon Forbidden West getting this one.
I think the only way Horizon Forbidden West wins is if the award's actually for best audio design of people crying and whinging constantly. That's the only way it wins best audio design from my mind. Bully, your thoughts?
So are you telling me that Jim Ryan did all the audio for Horizon Forbidden West?
They just left a live mic in his office for a few months, and it's a collection of Jim Ryan crying.
Why haven't you given me more money for PS Plus?
I'm pretty sure the baby you play at the start of Somerville is based off Jim Ryan as well.
It's all right, though. The Horizon Forbidden West is getting a new DLC coming up, and it's Jim Ryan. Oh, why won't anyone pay for the overpriced VR headset?
Well, someone will, I guess.
So the optional DLC is your missus crying when she finds out how much you spent? Or?
Well, funnily enough, she gave the tick of approval, but it was a bit of quid pro quo because as soon as I mentioned it, she said, actually, I've had my eye on something, so I'll go on.
There it is.
So, anyway.
When's her new Tesla get here?
You got to do what you got to do, I suppose. As soon as Elon Musk ruins Twitter. The audio design, that's always a bit of a different one for me. I agree with you. Gran Turismo 7, you're basically recording cars as they go around.
Don't forget their chintzy menu music. It sounds like you're in an elevator. It is the worst music going around. Sorry, mate, back to you.
No, that's all right. But things like that, and as Unky said, the same with Call of Duty. It's they're audio things that you can either get in real life or replicate things that are in real life through using real life things, whether it's cars, whether it's guns, whether it's, whatever it is. But I agree with Unky. I think Forbidden West, when you're creating something from scratch, and quite clearly there's not robot dinosaurs rolling around the plains just yet. So you've actually got to come up with how are they going to sound, and they're all individualized. And not only that, but you've got how are they sound when they're walking around? How do they sound when they're engaged in combat? How do their weapons go? You've actually got to put a lot of time and effort into each individual one. And there's 15 or 20 different versions of the dinosaurs that you fight, and that's taking aside all the human characters in it as well. So for mine, that's leaps and bounds in front of it in terms of audio design. If you're taking it from a purely development point of view and what you've got to put into getting what you get out of it, I think that's far and away in front.
I reckon that's a fantastic argument, guys, and I can see no hole. Best.
Well, obviously, we're not going Ashley Birch in Horizon Forbidden West because apparently she whinges too much throughout the whole game. But I really do like Ashley Birch. I think she's great. Season 3 of what's their show?
Clear. It wasn't Aloy that was whinging. It was every other NPC in that game. You go to any town, any village, any traveller you happen across. Sorry, mate.
No, that's true. That's true. So I can't see her winning it. She's won, I think, plenty of awards for her performance in games before. So I don't see it going to her, unfortunately. But no, I've just lost that list, unfortunately. So if you could tell me who's next on that list.
Yeah, A Plague Tale Requiem is next, and it's Charlotte. Yeah, well, is she going to lose some points for going from French in the first game to English in the second game, do you think?
Well, I think she doesn't sound too different. It's more her brother that sounds less French in this game. But I think I definitely think she does put a better performance for this game than she did the last game. I think she's got a lot more to play with in terms of story and where her character goes. That I think she does actually put together a pretty good performance. I could see it going to her for that. Same token, I think Christopher Judge is just absolutely brilliant as Kratos, and I think
he's got this in the bag.
I think so. I can't see him losing.
Not a chance.
You got Man Engaged from Immortality, and she actually had to play. She was a relatively unknown actor, and in Immortality, and it's full FMV acting, and she plays herself plus 3 other characters within movies and plays it really well. So, in a niche sort of category, I could see maybe someone like her getting a nod for this. Sunny, God of War, obviously Atreus plays a much bigger role in Ragnarok, and his voice has dropped a little bit. He sounds a little bit different. His performance is way better than what it was in the first one, but I cannot see him beating out Christopher Judge, who puts in a performance as Kratos this time round, who again has way more to work with this time round, and a lot more hours of gameplay to work with. And from what I've heard, towards the end of that game is where he really sort of gets into the meat of his performances. But even from what I've seen so far, he's only dropped the boy once in that video game so far, and it was one of the most grand moments in video gaming that I've had, because obviously in the first game he says it every 2 seconds, and the way they use it for the first time in that game, so I won't spoil it, but it hits so well, because you're like, oh, hang on a sec, that was the first time he's actually used it, and I don't think he's used it since. So this is one time, and just from that one moment, I don't see him losing this category.
He has nailed the role 100%. I would say 80% of the emotional resonance in this game is from Christopher Judge's performance in this. Hands down, he has won this, no question, in my mind. But, Bully, what are your thoughts?
Oh, again, probably a bit hard if 2 of the 5 nominations have got a war that I haven't got to yet. But based on what I've heard, I'd have to sort of agree that one of those, or probably, Kratos would have to get it. Charlotte or Alicia, I didn't think she was too bad in the second one, as Unky said. You want to talk about a whinger, you talk about her brother. He was whinging for the whole bloody thing.
Amicia, hold my hand for the whole game.
Bully, can you just wind your mic up a bit, man? I'm really struggling to hear you now.
No, that's all right.
There you go. Nailed it.
Yeah, there was whinging out of him, I'll tell you that right now. Forbidden West, I don't know. Maybe I was half cut when I was playing it, but I didn't really find any whinging from Aloy.
No, I'm saying it wasn't her. I'm saying she didn't. It wasn't her. It was everybody else in that world but her.
Oh, I know there was a bit of carry on because of the situation they found themselves in, but I just sort of thought, oh well, it's just part of it. I wasn't sitting there going, oh, will you shut up? I've had enough of this rubbish.
That's all I was thinking the whole time.
I didn't find it that bad at all. As I said, I reckon old mate from A Plague Tale was worse than that. Every 5 seconds he's carrying on about, oh yeah, I'm scared, or the rats, or the this, or the that, and he was much more irritating than.
The rats. I can control them, but they scare me.
But at least in Plague Tale, he's motivating you to protect him. In Forbidden West, I'm walking around going, I don't want to meet anybody else because I don't want to hear anyone else complain. It puts me off exploring.
I would have been pretty happy if Messia's brother just was consumed by the rats at one point.
Savage.
No spoilers, Billy. I'm not sure how it ends, but I know it's brutal. So I might get my wish after all.
I'm not going to speak about it. That's not a yay or an A. I'm just not speaking about it. I'm giving it away.
Thank you, boys. I'm nowhere near the end. Do not spoil it. I beg you.
No, but I'll take on board for what you guys have said. I reckon God of War is probably, and Kratos specifically is probably the one that's going to take that out. I would have thought.
Perfect. That brings us to games for impact.
There's a few on this.
Unky, do you have your?
I've got my idea who's going to win this, but we've got a Memoir Blue, As Dusk Falls, Citizen Sleeper, Endling Hindsight, and I Was a Teenager, Exo-colonist. I think it's a story of Billy's life. Can't be 100% sure, but I reckon the game that everyone knows and played on this list is probably As Dusk Falls, and I can see As Dusk Falls taking this category pretty easily somehow. And I think it was a very good game, and I think it had enough impact for what it was and its art style and story it told. I think it would easily take this category.
I can confirm I have only played one game on this list. It was As Dusk Falls, and I did find it very impactful. Bully, your thoughts?
I agree. And the other part with it, As Dusk Falls, it's not just scene to scene where it's impactful. It's across the board that there's twists and turns throughout the whole length of the game that you sort of go, there's some that you sort of see coming and others that you don't, and you sort of got to work your way through that. And each time you come across something that you think it's going to play out a certain way and it doesn't, the impact that has, and especially with this type of game where it's that branching narrative, that you get up to one certain section and then it has, you make a choice that has a massive impact through the rest of the game, and you can see the sort of chain of events that play out and how your game's progressing based on those choices. And then if you go back and play it again and it's that same sort of thing, I don't want to go down that same path, so I'll do something else, and it changes it again and again and again. And I suppose it's just sort of the way that those games play, but each decision has a massive impact on the rest of the game, and that starts from the opening 10 or 15 minutes that you're making decisions that will ultimately impact how it plays out 10 or 15 hours later. And for mine, that sort of thing where it sticks to that and there's no coming back from that decision, you've made it, that is what it is. I think that's a no-brainer there, I would have thought.
Yeah, I think Bully and I had conversations at the time. We sort of did our review on G.E.A. in relation to this as well, just like the conversations that it elicited in relation to impact away your decisions had that impact within the story as well. It was so drastically different. I think I could easily see this game taking this out.
Yep, I reckon we could lock that one in, which brings us to best game.
Best ongoing game. I know it usually goes to Final Fantasy 14, but you got a lot of games on here. I think pretty much all these games are always on this list. So you've got Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Genshin Impact. I can maybe see this going to Fortnite. I think Fortnite's done a lot of good things with its seasons over the year and stuff. You hate to say it, but I mean they are very good. I think they've got the model to go after when it comes to ongoing games, which is why I think The Last of Us developer, I think Naughty Dog's gone out and they've actually employed, I think, Fortnite's monetary model guy, whoever does that. I think that's who's jumping on board the Last of Us multiplayer experience. So they've obviously recognised that they've got a very good model that goes on. So I can easily see Fortnite taking this. Destiny had a good year with its expansion as well, and they've got another one coming out next year. So that community as well, I think it's going to be pretty much go down to who's got the biggest community, who's going to vote the hardest. But I think for mine, it's going to go to either, I think Final Fantasy might have won it last year, so I think it's not their year. So I think maybe Destiny 2 or Fortnite. But if I had to put money on something, I'd probably go Fortnite. Who's going to get
Yeah, mate, I'm right there with you. I reckon we change it to best incoming game, and Fortnite has to win. There's no way anyone's bringing in more money than Fortnite. Bully, your thoughts?
Oh, Jimmy crying. Ryan's looking at these going, where's mine? Where's mine? I reckon you'll find Genshin Impact. It's massive in the Asian market. So I think, and it, to be fair, it's actually not a bad game if you actually put a bit of time into it.
Oh, yeah, mate. I've dropped easy 20, maybe 30 hours into it. It is a good game. I do enjoy it.
If it was getting voted by the players, then yep, but it's not being voted by the players. So that's what makes me think it's not going to get the nod.
Well, my only thing is it depends on how much impact the Chinese media have in relation to it as to whether they can push the narrative, because that's where it'll be coming from. I agree that it's probably one of the other ones, either Fortnite or Destiny is where you'd probably be looking at. It just depends how much of an impact and how much of a push comes from that Chinese sector, and how much, because we know we talk about Tencent and is it NetEase the other one?
Yep.
One of the other major ones over there.
They're Diablo Immortal. Yep.
Yeah, so those sort of companies that have, obviously worth a lot of money, and how much influence that money then has on the industry as a whole, and how much that sort of pushes through. I know we sort of saw it at the midpoint of the year when we did the Summer Games Fest with who's his name? The bloke who runs this. He's not minus
Yep.
just for the moment, but we saw some of the adverts that were being pushed through the Summer Games Fest, and it sort of made you sit there and question a little bit who's pushing a narrative here and who's pushing their games and their media into a wider audience, and that's probably one of the biggest audiences outside of E3 that hasn't existed in a previous form for a number of years. So I'm just a bit mindful of how that's going to play out. And this is probably one of the only categories that we've actually only had, or that we've had a Chinese influence in any of those categories as such.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. I can't believe I'm still blanking on his name. I know exactly who you mean. Oh, Jeff Keighley. Yes, well played, Unky. Sorry, you've nailed it. Man, I thought I was losing my mind there for a moment, blanking on that one.
All that was coming to my mind was
sorry, Unky.
All that's coming to mind was Jim Ryan. Every time it's the only name I can hear.
All right, best indie.
Trying to throw Jeff Keighley into a song doesn't play as well as Jim Ryan's crying.
It doesn't.
I love it. Best indie. Off the top, I'll just say it. Cold and Lamb. Melbourne developers go for gold, guys. Sorry, Unky, over to you, mate.
I think Cold and Lamb will take this one. There are some really good games here. I played Now on White, loved it. A massive PC and Switch game that a lot of people loved. Sifu, again, it's up there. It's one of those AAA style indie games that I loved. A lot of people liked, but I think a lot of more people played Cult of Lamb, being the fact that I think it was Game Pass as well. At the time.
No. Cold of the Lamb is not Game Pass. I've been dying to get my hands on it, but I haven't played it yet because it's not in Game Pass. I would love for Cold of the Lamb to come over there.
I'm going to stick to that story because my wife's here and she didn't think I paid for it. So he was just on the down. It was Game Pass. Game Pass. That one.
So, hang on. We just need to delve into this a bit further. Am I sleeping on your couch, or are you coming and trying to sleep on my couch?
We might need to keep a room spare at both of our houses, Bully.
Well, hold on, guys. You're welcome in the studio anytime, but this couch does not fold out, so you boys can fight for either left or right. So this couch, you're welcome.
No, at this point, we'll say Sifu, even though it was PlayStation, I think it was also on Game Pass. Best indie, I think a lot of people loved and played Cult of Lamb, so I could see that winning, but I'm seeing a lot of good games here, like Tunic, although it didn't really have a manual of how to play that game in that game. A lot of people learned how to play it without it.
You just got to wait for the physical release, and then you get a hard copy manual that you can sit
there you go. It's actually in front of you.
Play the game properly.
No, it's a good idea. But this is, as from all the categories we've had so far, this is the only category I look at and go, I can't pick a winner, because for me, I would probably give it to Sifu because it's my favourite game on this list, but I don't know how many people that barrier of sort of getting into it was too hard because the game was very difficult. Granted, they did release a lot of accessibility stuff later on to make that game easier, but I think that did detract from the actual game experience itself. But that's a personal thing, saying that the reason I played that game was, it was hard, and that was the fun of trying to get through this game and start finish it. Like, I don't think I would have enjoyed that game had I just chucked it on easy and got through it, Troy. But no, I also really enjoyed Cult of the Lamb, but again, dropped off because a lot of other stuff came out, didn't finish it. Can see how good that game was. Neon White, again, jumped off it, didn't finish it. Stray, again, saw how good it was, didn't finish it. Tunic, didn't finish it. So on this list, Sifu is the only one I finished and really enjoyed everything about it. So, and I think it's the one out of all these 5 games or so that you would say is probably closer to a AAA game that came out that you could almost disguise itself as an indie because it didn't feel like it at the time.
Yeah, that's a fair call, mate. If you were just going off the internet, scuttlebutt hype, you'd think Cult of the Lamb's got to walk away with this one. But, Sifu would get my vote, that's for sure. How about you, Billy?
Oh, I'd sort of be leaning a bit more towards Tunic. It was one of those ones that came out of the blue for mine and was fantastic if you've actually played it properly, Troy. But again, I agree with Unky. It's an open field. You could make a case for any of the 5 that are sitting there, depending on what your gaming style's like, what your art style's like, how much time you like to put into a game, and all that sort of stuff. So I think it just sort of depends on the individual as to what they're looking at in terms of that one. Open field, but I haven't actually played it, but from what I've seen, I'll probably go Cult of the Lamb just as a guess.
Fair call. Now, here's a question. The next category is called Best Debut Indie. And can one of you blokes explain to me what the difference is between Best Indie and Best Debut Indie?
I did look at this and I find it strange that it's not the exact same applicants going in there because most of them are the same, but there are a few. So because it's weird that Best Indie is not Best Debut Indie because they're all debut games. They haven't appeared before this time. So I find that very strange.
I feel like we're splitting hairs.
We are, because I could see this exact same game winning the different category as well. But we've got Neon White, Norco, which I don't know what that is, Stray, Tunic, and Vampire Survivors. I'm just going to give it a Vampire Survivors because I think anyone's playing that game at the moment, and it's been on everyone's lips for a while. I think a lot of people are loving it on their Steam Decks as well. It's a lot of the game that most people are playing on their Steam Deck if you've got one, or if you live in a country that actually you can buy one.
My one point of order with Vampire Survivors, wasn't it its initial release 2018 or 2019 on PC? I feel like it doesn't really belong.
It might have been a beta at the time, but I think with the swell and popularity it's got at the moment, I think I can easily see that one just taking the cake in this category because I think it's the only category it appears in. So a lot of people will just jump on it for the fact that they love this game so much that if it's got a category we can vote for it, let's vote for it.
Yeah, I reckon it will take the biscuits. What about you, Billy?
I'm just sort of having a look at it. I would have thought the difference between so this is what when you talk about the difference between the debut and a separate indie game is I would have thought once you've made your indie debut and then you move on to the next game, it's no longer an indie game. You've got funds from your first lot or your first several lot of games that you've released that you can actually put more time, effort, and money and resources into it. I think for mine, at that point, it doesn't become an indie game anymore. It becomes a studio that is actually developing games.
Yeah,
I agree that, again, you look across the board, you throw them up, I'll go Tunic for this one, I suppose. Just having a look at the release of Vampire Survivors as well. It was early access from December 17 last year and was released on Windows and Mac on October 20 this year, and then obviously the ports November 10.
Do me a favour, mate. Pull up the Steam store page and look for the initial release because I'm sure that's where I saw it and I was blown away that it was several years old. I'm sure it was the Steam store page's initial release for Vampire Survivors that shocked me earlier.
I'll have a look. It says it open for early access on PC on 17 December last year.
Yeah, no, I accept that, but I'm saying through Steam, I reckon it was there a couple of years earlier. Anyway, sorry, I'll let you investigate that while we pass back to community.
Yeah, we've got community support, Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, No Man's Sky. So this is, again, looks like very similar as Nominees as best ongoing game. So I think No Man's Sky continues to sort of impress with its content and stuff that delivers to people, and also at no cost, which I think is one of the main things that Hello Games got going for. They keep giving us these massive updates to the game, and had another massive update this year again that again was all just free of cost. So I can see the goodwill going towards No Man's Sky.
Can I ask you, mate, on that point, No Man's Sky, big release earlier this year, was that the first time it went VR on, I think it was Oculus Quest 2 and, what is Steam VR, I think, but please correct me if I'm wrong. No Man's Sky, I believe, got VR support this year, and obviously it'll come to the PSVR 2 next year, but if they added VR support this year, I think they take this category for $0 upgrade. So Jim Ryan's not going to be happy, but I reckon they'd have to win it.
No, well, time's a flat circle, so it was maybe this year or maybe last year, but I know it definitely got a massive update not that long ago, maybe a month or two ago. It got a huge update across the board. I think
I'm pretty sure that's when they added the VR support just a couple of months back.
I feel like it had it before that, but it might have been earlier this year. But if that's the case, then I can see No Man's Sky definitely taking this. I think they've earned so much goodwill throughout the gaming community throughout the years that I could see it easily taking best community support. But again, I mean, Destiny 2 had a massive DLC this year as well. Apex Legends continues to be a first-person shooter that everyone goes back to. Final Fantasy 14, again, everyone loves. Fortnite continues to do its thing, but I think the fact that anyone just sort of looks at this list and then goes, No Man's Sky's not on this list, I think it's potentially getting the award for this one.
And we've got to back them anyway because they're Aussie developers as well.
Damn straight.
And then best mobile game, it's got to be Diablo Immortal. I haven't even seen the nominees, but that's got to take the win, doesn't it?
Surely.
What have we got in contention, mate?
Best mobile game, we've got Apex Legends, Diablo Immortal, Genshin Impact, Marvel Snap, and Tower of Fantasy. I'll tell you right now, the game that wins this is going to be Marvel Snap. I have only played a small portion of this game, but Marvel Snap apparently is lighting up everywhere. Everyone is in love with this game. It's just apparently just taking the world by storm. But for me, if I was voting for best mobile game, I really enjoyed Diablo Immortal this year, and I think you've spoken about it lots, how much you love this game.
Yeah.
I've played Apex Legends Mobile. I think Apex Legends Mobile, I've been out there and said it. I know I'll probably get a lot of shit for it, but I prefer Apex Legends Mobile than I do the console version of the game because it does have stuff like auto pickup and auto allocating of things. Don't give me that bully. Do you try Apex with a controller? And it is like I don't want to say it, but I've won every single game that I've played on Apex Legends Mobile with a controller. Mate, call me a bit of a cheat, maybe because
you're a hashtag gamer. So
mate, I'm a hashtag gamer, so that's probably the reason I'm winning those games. But I think a lot of people are calling for that auto pickup or auto assign of best like stuff in Apex in the core game for a very good reason because I think the mobile game gets it so right. But I can see, and I know there was a lot of scuttlebutt around Diablo Immortal and its pay to win stuff towards the end of that game, so I could see that not getting the win because of that, despite it being a decent product. But I think Marvel Snap, with a lot of the stuff I'm reading and stuff at the moment, that everyone loves that game, and even its monetary stuff's not egregious and stuff. And it's going to win it for sure. You mark my word.
Sounds good to me. My hope is that Diablo Immortals win it, but I've really got no idea who will win it. What about you, Billy? Best mobile game?
Just go away. Go away, mobile game.
All right, then. Best monkey, who have we got?
Best VR AR game, we have After the Fall, Among Us VR, which was only last week. We spoke about that. Bone Lab, Moss Book 2, and Red Matter 2. I can't speak to any of these games, having played them myself. I know After the Fall was a sequel to, it was some kind of zombie game that I really enjoyed.
It was before the Fall, wasn't it?
Yeah, you would think so, but it wasn't. No, it was. I think it was that Sunset something.
Sunrise. Philadelphia Sunrise, something like that.
Philadelphia Sunrise. Yep. So it's the same developers that, which I really enjoyed that game and have gone back and played it on the Quest.
Arizona Sunshine. I stand corrected. Arizona Sunshine.
No, good work. That was the one. So same developers, but this one more sort of multiplayer based. So I didn't really jump into it, but I've heard good things. Among Us VR, you spoke about it last week.
Love it.
Love it, and I could see that doing really well. Only the fact that it did just come out, that's the only thing going against it. Bone Lab, I've heard a lot of great things.
One more thing I can throw at Among Us. I've been blown away by the amount of community there is in that game. It is real easy to pick up the VR headset and find people to play. I was shocked at how easy it is to get straight into an Among Us VR game that has huge community support. I haven't seen or read any articles to that effect, but I can tell you from first-hand experience, anytime you want to play some Among Us VR, there is a big pool of people waiting to play there with you. I'm shocked by it.
Nice. Well, maybe that sort of helps get it to the win if there are a lot of people that have played it and can speak volumes of it. But I know Bone Lab has been applauded for its community support as well, and it's got a lot of creative tools, and it's supposed to be one of those games that VR was sort of made for, and a lot of people are speaking about it. Moss Book 2, I know Moss. The first one I played, I loved. I haven't played Moss Book 2. I think it has just come to Quest. Initially being a PlayStation-only title.
I thought it was still a PlayStation exclusive. I didn't realize it had come to Quest. That's pretty cool.
No, it has come to MetaQuest 2 now, so you can play that on there. I haven't downloaded it. I think you still got to pay like $50 or so for the game. But
Jim Ryan involved, was he?
Well, some way or another. But I could see that one taking it because Moss is a very high-end product in the way the first one was, and I think the second one probably sort of levers off that. Red Matter 2, I don't know much about, but if I'm putting my money on one of these, I'm going to go with Bone Lab.
I'm saying Among Us the whole way. Bully, VR thoughts?
I haven't jumped in any of these. I think I got into it sort of at the start of the year and then put it away pending the release of the VR2. But probably not much more to say about that other than Moss, the first one. I absolutely love that. It was a fantastic little game and a little puzzler. So I guess that's the only one I can sort of speak to. I'll throw my nomination in for that one.
Sorry, Bully, well, we've got you there, mate. Did you happen to find the Steam page, and is there any evidence of my accusations of a very old game? Well, a couple of years old.
No, it's saying on Steam, first release 17 December last year.
Oh, man, I don't know where I read that then. Anyway, sorry, my apologies to everyone. Clearly I'm wrong. Next up, Best Action.
So, best action game, we have Bayonetta 3, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Neon White, Sifu, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. This is a tough category. I could see this one going to either any of the bottom three, I reckon. I think Neon White was a great game. A lot of people played it, and I think the PC market, and it was good on Switch as well. I could see it getting best action game here, but I mean Sifu as well. A lot of people played that. A lot of people love Ninja Turtles. So, you know what? I'm just gonna. It should have got a nod in best soundtrack. So I'm going to go Ninja Turtles best action game.
I'm going to go Ninja Turtles because it's the only one of the nominees that I can play on the old man hand arcade stick, and God, it's a good time. What about you, Bully?
Oh, I agree with you. That was a fantastic time. The multiplayer was amazing. It was just that harkened back to that original arcade game that came out close to 30 years ago now. And I know they released the
Cowabunga collection.
Yeah, that had a few of those those old ones dotted in. But even reliving some of that sort of stuff, it didn't hold a candle to Shredder's Revenge. I thought that was an amazing update on an old game. And to be fair, if that doesn't win, I'll go he, but I'll sort of look at Call of Duty and think that's just a juggernaut. We'll probably march through.
Yeah, that is an unfortunate possibility, I think. What about best action slasher game?
Best action adventure game. This is one of the best categories because it's one of the games we all love to play. Playtale Requiem, God of War, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Tunic. For me, God of War again takes the cake for this one.
Yeah, God of War from this list for me. Bully?
Tunic.
Give him till we log off tonight in G.E.A. Give him 10 minutes in the God of War. He's changed his tune on that one. Don't you worry.
Come back in next week and every winner will be no God of War. No God of War.
That's right. Best role playing game. This one I don't even need to read out the rest of them because Elden Ring is going to win that hands down. But we've also got Live Alive, Pokemon Legends Arceus, Triangle Strategy, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Elden Ring is going to win that one for sure.
Second that Elden Ring it is, Bully.
Oh, come on.
I've got... But, Bully, We're coming out, what is it, the 15th, 14th of December, The Witcher 3. Surely best role-playing game should get a nod there.
It was a month too late on the cutoff.
Oh, of course, the cutoff date. The cutoff date.
And don't forget, Bully, The Witcher. He doesn't feel good to play coming up in the Standoff. It doesn't feel too good. Didn't make the list. Sorry.
Don't jump ahead. But what I was going to say was, CD Projekt Red are just doing everybody a favour, because if they had to drop the release in October or November, it just would have cleaned the slate. There would have been one nomination.
Is that why we got the delay?
There would have been one nomination, and it just would have been The Witcher. That's the only nomination. In fact, this whole conversation would have been very short.
But then
best would have been The Witcher.
Best fighting game, Monkey?
Okay, DNF, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, The King of Fighters, Multiverses, and Sifu. I'm giving it to my boy Sifu.
I'm seconding you on that.
I can see Multiverses winning it because it had a massive swell of population. I know Bully loved it, but I could see Sifu actually taking this one.
Sifu gets my vote, but I think you're right. I think Multiverses is going to take this one. Bully?
Yeah, I'll probably go with Multiverses. My surprise one out of that was probably the WWE game that came out, because that was a fairly decent return to form. And he's still being fairly well supported with updates and roster updates and
Can confirm, I was literally playing that game as of tonight. My little fella still, every time, he's like, Daddy, can we play the wrestling game? Whether it's to create a character and one of the best character creators still this year, if not the best. But just so much fun just to jump in and play, and is continuously getting updated and easily. I know 2K gets a lot of shit for some of the games they put out, but I think this year they actually did really well with that game. And I don't know if it's the best sports game, but I think it got snubbed and it's not even in the nominees for this year for that, which I think is an absolute farce.
Well, any game
best character
that has Big Boss Man is a winner.
That's it.
Best character creator. No shout out to Saints Row, Unky. Come on, now that's got to be the best character creator. Bruce Willis, The Mask.
Saints Row's up there. Funny you should say that. Saints Row did just get its 20 gig update as of today, which I have installed with a whole bunch. They call it the Beast Patch.
What does it add?
I don't know. I jumped in; it felt exactly the same. But there's a laundry list of things that I could have put on the news. But unfortunately, we've got the game nominees at the moment, which is taking up a lot of time. So maybe next week you'll find out what patch notes Saints Row got.
I love it. And sorry, gents, I'm going to have to break precedent here and go for an active reload. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Bear with us. Welcome back, Unky. Best family game?
Best family game, and finally it's on a list somewhere. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Yes, that game got freaking Soulsborne hard right at the end, but god damn, it's a good game. It should have been on the best soundtrack as well, because that game is amazing when it comes to soundtrack. We also have Lego Star Wars, Skywalker Saga, Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope, a more recent release, Nintendo Switch Sports, and Splatoon 3, which I played on my holiday while I was away and loved that game. But I'm thinking Kirby's getting this one. It's got to win an award, and it's got to be this one.
If it was going off sales, I reckon Splatoon 3 is going to give it a nudge for its money. But if it was going off time spent in my household hands-on, Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga cannot be beat. My boys have pounded hours and hours into that one. What about you, Billy?
It's a bit of a toss-up, I reckon. You could go any one of those. I'll go with Mario and Rabbids, I think, even though I haven't played it yet. If it's a good follow-on from the last one, I reckon that's a good one. Although I probably agree with you a little bit, Troy, that Star Wars Lego is always a bit of a favourite in the family as well.
Yeah, nice one. Sim strategy, Unky.
Yeah, best sim strategy game. Not my favourite style of game, but we've got Dune, Spice Wars, Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope, Total War, 2 Point Campus, Victoria 3. I'm giving my vote to Mario Rabbids, especially if it doesn't get the best family game. It's going best sim strategy game.
I'm backing you up on that one. How about you, Billy?
Where are we at there? I'll throw 2 Point Campus at you.
Okay, noted.
Best sports game. We have F1 22, FIFA 23, NBA 2K 23, Gran Turismo 7, and Ollie Ollie World. Let's give it to Ollie Ollie World. I think Tony Hawk won it last year, so I could see it going to a sports game similar to akin to that with the skateboarding. I think Ollie Ollie World did everything a sequel needs to do for a game. I think it's going to take the cakes for this one as well, given the fact we don't have WWE, which I mentioned earlier, definitely got snubbed for this this category.
I reckon FIFA 23 will actually win it, as it's the last time, FIFA and EA dancing together. I think they'll get it for that reason. But, Unky, I'm with you. If it were my vote, it would indeed be Ollie Ollie World. How about you, Billy?
I agree. Another massive snub for WWE. I thought that was far and away the best sports-related game. But I think NBA 2K, I know FIFA sells pretty well, and across the board it's always rated pretty well. But NBA, despite the fact they're little ridiculous role-playing / let's cruise around the world, which I don't know who wants that, but I think that I still think that's that might be a winner there.
Fair enough.
Now, Troy, your audio cut out. I'm assuming you said best multiplayer game.
I did.
We have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Multiverses, Overwatch 2, Splatoon 3, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. I can see this going to Modern Warfare 2, given its hot talk of the town, its multiplayer has been good. The beta was good as well. But I mean, Multiverses did have a swell earlier this year. Overwatch 2, I can't see it getting it because a lot of people like it's more of Overwatch 1. Splatoon 3, Switch game, not as many people play that. I could also see it going to Ninja Turtles if it hasn't managed to snaffle an award at this point. For me, if I was voting, I would probably give it to something like Ninja Turtles in terms of its multiplayer. Call of Duty, obviously, as fun as it is and as good as it is, it's more Call of Duty. So I would be going Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I could see the win going to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
I think Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is going to win it, and they would also get my vote. And I'll just remind you, boys, that technically speaking, Warzone 2 that came out today is included as part of Modern Warfare 2. So it has the largest multiplayer suite going. I think if you couldn't find a multiplayer game in all of their multiplayer options that you like, you're not looking hard enough. So I think Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 will win it, and I think rightly so. How about you, Billy?
I agree with you. Call of Duty's probably going to win it. I'd actually like to see TMNT win it, though. I thought that was fantastic. Almost came out of nowhere and was amazing to play as a multiplayer game. I thought that just as good as the base game was single player, playing it as a co-op and a throwback to the old arcade style. Everyone standing around a machine, jumping in, throwing their comments in, all the rest of it. I really think that one, in terms of bringing people together, should win it. But I agree with you. Call of Duty is just too big to knock over for that one.
I'll tell you what though. Like contender, I'm not sure whether it came in too late or not, but Gotham Knights. I just want to speak about that game in its multiplayer. It has some seamless co-op experience, and I think it was one of the most fun experiences I've had co-op this year as well. And it's obviously it's got no awards. It's not a nominee for any of these things, whether it came in too late for nominees or just didn't get any. I just think, again, I just want to shout out Gotham Knights for its co-op and its multiplayer this year, because again, as I said, it's one of the most fun I've had in a multiplayer experience this year.
Fair call, Unky, and I've got good news for you, mate. As G.E.A. has its own awards, we can certainly slip it onto our list, and I reckon you'll get a fair bit of support from everyone on the panel if you want it to win.
Beautiful.
Content Creator of the Year, I suggest Best Adaption?
You got Carl Jacobs, Ludwig, Nibelian, Nobru, and QT Cinderella. I think Nibelian will probably win this. I think recently he was one of the main news sources and stuff for Twitter. I think he used to put up a lot of the stuff that was happening early, and a lot of content creators out there would use Nibelian to get their news for their game show or for their YouTube podcasts and stuff. And I think he tried to start a Patreon and it didn't work, and he had to sort of cancel his channel. And any kind of stuff that was going on with him. So I think, and no one knows who he was, but he's come out and a lot of the creators out there have sort of gone out there for Nibelian and fought for him. So I can see, even though I don't know who any of these people are, I actually know who Nibelian is from listening to a lot of other gaming podcasts. I can easily see him winning this one. I'm not sure if you guys have anything else to say on that.
No, pass from me, Bully.
Just a couple of things, Troy. I think just had a bit of feedback that your mic's breaking up a little bit again. But
God damn it.
Content Creator of the Year. I'm just looking at that list thinking, I think there's an obvious one that we haven't got that's been snubbed that might be on air right now, having a discussion about Game of the Year topics. Anybody?
Indeed. Where was our nomination? I think Jim Ryan maybe blacklisted us.
Damn you, Jim Ryan.
Up next,
Adaption, Unky?
What's that?
Best Adaption. Sorry, is my mic still rubbish?
Yeah, a little bit, but that's all. I'll take it. Best Adaption. So we've obviously got Arcane, League of Legends, Cyberpunk, Edge Runners, which we've spoken about, Cuphead Show, which I thought was really good. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Some argue better than the first, some argue not as good. And the Uncharted movie. For me, I'm very biased when it comes to this, the Uncharted series. I actually really enjoyed the Uncharted movie, and it was a late contender in the standoff for Best Movie Adaptation. I think we gave it the win. Maybe been recency bias, but I really enjoyed it. But I think the winner for this one is easily going to be Cyberpunk Edge Runners.
Boom, you've nailed it. Uncharted for me was the high watermark until I saw Edge Runners, and no question. I've viewed it twice now. No question for me. Edge Runners is the clear winner in that one. What about you, Billy?
I'd be honest, I haven't jumped into Edge Runners yet. I reckon the Cuphead Show for me, that was Uncharted was a fantastic movie, surprisingly. But I reckon the Cuphead Show, it brought a lot of the humour from the game that you only sort of got in little snippets in between levels. It brought it and fleshed it out, and I thought that was fantastic, to the point that it was one of the few video game adaptations that my kids actually got into. They enjoyed it as well, even though they probably didn't get half the jokes that were there. But never mind, they enjoyed it, and I enjoyed sitting down and watching it with them. Just make sure they don't go eyes on with Edge Runners, mate. That'll end poorly for you and them. Now that's got to go to my arcade.
Innovation and accessibility. I'm not sure why every time you announce a new segment is the only time your mic seems to break up. But anyway, innovation and accessibility, as Dusk Falls, God of War, Return to Monkey Island, Last of Us Part 1, and The Quarry. This is going to go to God of War Ragnarok. Just the amount of accessibility options in that game is ridiculous. And I think Last of Us Part 2 paved the way for that with its accessibility options. And Last of Us Part 1 essentially is just, doing exactly what Last of Us Part 2 with its accessibility, which is really good. But I think God of War Ragnarok then hits that mark and then exceeds it even further. I can't really speak too much to the accessibility of Dusk Falls. I'm assuming it's got quite a few options in there in terms of how long you've got to, answer or make your choices and stuff like that. The Quarry, I remember having quite a few in relation to its quick time events and stuff as well. But I can't see God of War losing this. Their accessibility is just on another level.
No, God of War certainly gets my nod. That being said, I'm still yet to go hands-on with The Last of Us Part 2. Part 1, I should say. Sorry. The remake of the remake of the remake, Bully.
Well, so that's the thing is, when you talk about accessibility, isn't that the first thing that knocks it out? It's 130 Australian dollars to play a remake of a remake of a remake. How am I getting accessibility, or how am I getting access to a game that is absurdly overpriced?
No, you've got it backwards. It's Jim Ryan's accessibility to your wallet.
Oh, in that case, he's got a straight line into the wallet. This is ridiculous. I understand that once you get into the game, that it's got all these options in there, but the price is knocking people out of the water from the get-go. Resident whale.
I love it. I love it. So sorry, where are we all falling on this one? God of War Ragnarok for me and Unky. Where did you land? Sorry, Billy.
Oh, look, again, without having played it, but from what I've seen, I think God of War and all the stuff that they've got in there, the tweaks, the little sliders and stuff, and you guys talked about it before, even in terms of the puzzle solving and stuff, that you can almost get to the point of skipping a lot of that stuff from what I've seen, because you get the hints that sort of go, just do this, just do this, just do this, and then you can sort of work your way through it. You can slide it the other way and go, no, I actually want to challenge myself a little bit. So going to those sort of links to mine, it broadens the breadth of people that can get involved in it, whether you're just there for the storytelling or the play style or that sort of stuff, and you don't really want the puzzles, or you want the puzzles but you don't want the hardness of the combat and all that sort of stuff. I just think that they've sort of probably gone above and beyond from what we've seen anywhere else.
I love it. Over to you, Unky, for the most anticipated. Oh, Unky Dunky, do we still have you?
Unky seems to have dropped out. I might jump in there for him while he works himself out. Final Fantasy 16, Hogwarts Legacy, Resident Evil 4, obviously the remake that's coming early next year from Capcom, Starfield from Bethesda, that Xbox exclusive there, or the new Legend of Zelda, the follow-up to Breath of the Wild, is Tears of the Kingdom, coming in May next year.
Yeah, can I...
Release date off the top of my head.
Can I make a suggestion here, Bully? Let's cross off Hogwarts Legacy, Starfield, and Hogwarts Legacy and Starfield. I think they only get on this list because they missed their initial release date, so I don't think they should be included.
Oh, you might say that. To be honest, I look at that list and I know there's a fair bit of anticipation for The Legend of Zelda, which you could almost make that argument as well, because there was initially some discussion that it was going to come out at some point this year, but that's obviously been pushed as well. But for mine, I don't know why. From what I've seen out of it, something a bit different in the Harry Potter universe and all that sort of stuff. I'm actually really looking forward to Hogwarts Legacy. Every time I see a little bit of a snippet from them and all the rest of it, and I think I saw during the week that they released, or Power Picks, I think it was, that for those that aren't aware, do the platinum guides for PlayStation games as well. They released the trophy list, or got their hands on the trophy list for it, and it seems like it's going to be a massive game to try and platinum. They're talking about having 3 or 4 playthroughs to get everything in there, and that you're going to have to explore the whole breadth of the castle and the grounds, and even areas outside that as well. So in terms of what it's got to offer, from what I've seen, and I'm a big Harry Potter fan anyway, so for mine, I know there's some great games on that list, but I reckon Hogwarts Legacy, and it comes out fairly early on next year, so we've only got probably, I think it's mid-February, so we've really only got 2 or 3 months to wait for that one. And the others, I know that they're sort of early next year releases, but there's a few of those that I can still see being pushed back. Starfield being one of them. I know Xbox is fairly adamant that it's coming out early next year as well. That's yet to be seen. We haven't seen a lot of it since mid-year, but I reckon Hogwarts is one for me.
Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, without a doubt.
Yeah, that would be good. And welcome back, Unky. Good to have you, mate. For me, it's Starfield, and that is only because I have been dying for a good RPG Bethesda style, so much so that I've actually been going back and tucking into the Outer Worlds recently. And the more I play that, the more I'm like, oh, I'm ready for Starfield. Give it to me. So personally, Starfield for me, I can't wait for that one to come out. But I don't even understand how Resident Evil 4's on the list. How is a re-release the most anticipated game? That makes zero sense in my mind.
Well, it is one of the best Resident Evil games going out there. A lot of people are anticipating.
Yeah, but
with the
I could
remakes
go out and play it today.
Yeah, but you can't. Not like the way they've shown recently what it looks like. So I can see why it's on the list. And Bully spoke about Hogwarts. I think that's up there for a lot of people. Just it does.
Yeah.
Like even watching the gameplay, it's kind of got that God of War kind of feeling to it, where it's like an open world, but it's semi-linear and it's the same thing. So wide open spaces, and you've got the castle you can sort of go through. You're learning spells, and it's got that outer world stuff as well. I could really see that being massive, but I just don't see either Starfield or Zelda losing this in terms of most anticipated game. I think Zelda, like Breath of the Wild, easily one of the best games ever released, and you've got the sequel coming out this year. I could easily see that. You've got Starfield, which is the newest game by Bethesda, who everyone's been waiting for as well. So I'd be very surprised if either of those two don't win this round, as much as I would like to put my money towards Hogwarts.
I think the only knock against The Legend of Zelda is that the blue blur has taken some of the wind out of its sails. I was keen for it, but then playing Sonic, I don't know, that itch is kind of scratched for me. What do you reckon, Billy?
Well, I don't disagree. They've transplanted Link for the blue blur, and we've just got the game 6 months earlier.
I mean, Link did wear a blue tunic in the most recent Zelda game as well, so you could argue that Sonic stole the blue color from Link.
Well, there is that, but I've got what I've wanted out of Zelda playing Sonic. I don't think there's any more to be anticipated about.
That's exactly what I'm saying. The wind's been taken out of their sails.
Yeah, it hasn't.
I
don't think we need to worry about the rest of the categories. They're all esports related. And let's face it, I don't think any of us really care about esports stuff.
Hold on. I've just got to immediately, I agree with you from everything beyond this point, other than best esports game has got to be Rocket League. It's one of my all-time favourites. It gets hours of gameplay every month from me. Rocket League for the win on this category.
League of Legends will win because it always does, but that's all I have to say.
Oh, no.
Fair enough, Bully.
I was just going to say, I'd agree with Troy. I reckon Rocket League's still flying well, and I reckon the sales have gone out of League of Legends a little bit from what I've seen. It's not quite the unstoppable force that it once was.
Rocket League in a league of its own. That brings us to new releases coming out this week. Please, take it away.
So new releases this week. We have this is Jim Ryan's game. It's called Evil. I think on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4. It's only on PlayStation, so that makes sense. We also have Floodland on PC, November 15. Pentiment, which you spoke about earlier, Xbox Series X and S and Xbox One and PC, November 15 on Game Pass. We have Smurfs Kart on Switch, November 15, because you need another kart game when Mario Kart rules the roost there. Good luck, Smurfs. I'm a bit of a Smurfs fan.
Mario Kart actually release something new, or you might be excited about it. Until then,
they did, mate. They've been releasing content non-stop. They've got all these extra track packs at the moment. You can't, it's still called Mario Kart 8, but I mean, they've got content coming.
Maybe throw something with some updated graphic. Oh, hang on, it's a Switch. No, it runs like crap. No, keep going with the Mario Kart.
We've got Somerville, which was out on November 15, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, PC. We have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, also glowing reviews from us. PlayStation 5 gets its launch this week, November 15, so that is out now, previously only on Xbox. We have Yeez 8 on Yeez 8 Lacrimosa of Dana, PlayStation 5 is out now, November 15. Call of Duty Warzone 2.0, as you spoke about, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. It came out yesterday. We have Wreckfest previously a console game, is now out on iOS and Android, November 16. Goat Simulator 3, we skipped 2 and went straight to 3. Xbox Series X and S, PC, PS5 out today. Unfortunately, I thought this game was coming to Game Pass. It, however, has not. It's $49.95 on the store in Australia. So probably a barrier of entry there for myself because I kind of want to play it, but I'm not going to spend 50 plus or $50 on that game just to play it at this point in time. Miles Morales hits PC November 18. Great game. So finally hitting PC. We have PID or PID on Switch November 18, 6.5 from Game Informer. Probably don't need to play that. We have your new Pokemon games, Scarlet and Violet. They are also out November 18 tomorrow, so we'll wait and see. Review embargo hasn't quite hit yet, so always not the best time when new games, especially the Pokemon series, reviews haven't hit just yet, but we'll wait and see about that. But I know Bully's a massive Pokemon fan.
I'm surprised they didn't actually lift that review embargo because it was leaked, I reckon, at least a week or two ago, the story and at least the starting Pokemon and all that sort of stuff. So if you've got an interest in that, try and avoid the internet because it's flooding around everywhere. And I
did look earlier. There are some YouTubers out there that are giving review opinions and stuff on already. So no official scores, but there are definitely reviews out there and stuff on that game. We have Resident Evil 3 is hitting Switch November 18 as well. Got a 9-game Informer. I'm assuming that's on the other consoles because I don't know how it would get to 9 on the Switch.
No, it's not. It's not a score of 9 on the Switch, mate. That's 9 frames a second running on the Switch.
Got you. My.
That's in performance mode too. Yes, gotcha.
Yeah, nice. And one I am very much looking forward to, and kind of forgot it was November 18. We have the new Dark Pictures anthology, The Devil in Me, which
is that game 4.
Yeah, I reckon that is game 4, and this one, leans heavily on the Saw stuff. So I just watched a recent episode of The Rookie, based on Police and Nathan Fillion, great show recently, where one of the main characters got trapped in a very much Saw-like device, and that really got me pumped up for wanting to play this game. So I cannot wait to jump into the Dark Pictures anthology, Devil in Me. I know Bully will. He's a Dark Pictures fan, so not sure he's finished the last couple, but I know he's a fan of this genre.
Oh, very much so, but that's a long way at the bottom of the list at the moment.
Oh, mate, you've got at least 40 hours of God of War to put in before then.
We that might be hopefully a Black Friday sale.
Beautiful. And that is it for our games releasing this year, Troy. I mean, not this year, this week, I should say. Troy's audio, do we have it?
Looks like we've de-ropped out a little bit there, Troy. We'll try and get back onto that. But why don't we jump over while Troy's fixing that, Unky, and we can go to the standoff.
Who will fight?
We may not be able to hear him, but he can hear us. So the standoff, who will fight, is what Troy would say. So tonight we have the game characters that feel good to play as. We are looking at smooth, responsive, good control mapping and make you feel like you are the characters tonight. So where they give us stuff about story at the moment, although a lot of these characters do present themselves in games with very good stories, but we're just looking at how you pick that control up and it just feels to play. Now, number 1 on the standoff, we have Celine from Returnal. Now, I know me and Troy have both platinumed Returnal and absolutely adored this game. And I was in the studio with Troy the first time we played this game, and I was immediately impressed by the way this game felt just to run in the game and the way the controller felt. Yes, it's a DualSense game, so automatically you're feeling the rain hitting you as that game opens up, and just the way Celine moves. They have created a bullet hell shooter as a third-person shooter, and it's absolutely to perfection. You could not create a better game of this genre in a third person than what they have done with this. Just to control Celine within this game, with everything that's going on in the game and bullet stuff coming at you, lasers coming at you, the way she moves and dashes, the way your weapon fires, everything on screen all at once just feels immaculate to play. And like a game like this just couldn't have been done by anyone else, I don't think. I think Housemarque knows how to make a shooter like this, and I think moving forward, I can't wait to see what they do because Celine just moves like an absolute joy. Bully, I'm not sure. You played much of Returnal?
Oh, I have put a fair bit of time into it. I don't disagree with you. The way it plays is amazing, and the way that it feels, sort of cruising through each of those. I know you and Troy love the word, me not so much, but the biomes I think actually fit for this one.
Or as the French call it, biomes.
The biome. I think the way that I'll throw my hand up and say it's not my style of game. It's not something I'm going to spend a lot of time playing, and I certainly won't go to the lengths of getting to the platinum that you guys did. But the way it plays, and I probably still put about 15, 20 hours into it. And the way it plays, the way she moves, and just a sort of frenetic, as you said, almost that bullet hell style shooter with, all these things coming at you from different angles and all that sort of stuff. It plays really well. So I'd certainly agree that it belongs in the standoff for this week.
Troy.
Indeed it does. Selena Kyle, I like the way you move. Hopefully you can hear me, fellas, and we can move on to Standoff 2, dare I suggest?
Catwoman knows better than that.
No, like obviously, Troy and I did platinum that game. So what a game! It's Celine just moves like no other character. Like this, it's ridiculous how well like this. It's for a game that's got so much going on. You can never complain about the controls getting in the way of you dying because it's always your fault because she is silky smooth.
She was the winner of our Game of the Year last year for very good reason. I absolutely love it. And no spoiler alert here, but I think we'll be coming back to this one shortly. Number 2, guys.
Number 2, she's got some stiff competition. Also starting with S, we have Spider-Man from 2018. You could also argue Miles Morales as well. But what other game, I mean, the meme came out. It's on our list as well, but makes you feel like Batman. This game makes you feel like Spider-Man. Like, as soon as this game picks up, you are thrown directly into Spider-Man's control. He jumps out of the window in a cutscene, and automatically you're taking control of Spider-Man swinging through the city. And as the game opens up and as you unlock more abilities and combat and stuff like that, it still just flows effortlessly through your hands and through the controller. I don't think you end up with quite the RSI you do with something like a God of War, but the amount of things you can do on the controller as Spider-Man and make you feel like him, it gives you options to be stealthy. It gives you options to, have action. It gives you options to swing through the city, and literally just being Spider-Man, swinging through that city is fun. Like, I can hand the controller to my 7-year-old son and he can swing around this city and feel like Spider-Man and be Spider-Man without even thinking about it too much. It's just intuitive. The webs connect to the buildings that create that inertia of what it feels like it would be to, be Spider-Man swinging through the air at any given time. So I think in terms of nailing a Spider-Man game, I don't think Insomniac could have done any better. And I know they laid the groundwork with a game called Sunset Overdrive, which I almost chucked on this list, but Spider-Man obviously took the cakes for it. But Sunset Overdrive was another one. Just traversal within that game was just so much fun to do. And I think they nailed it with Spider-Man, and moving forward with Spider-Man Miles Morales, which he doesn't so much control differently to Peter Parker in this game, but he's also got his own unique animations. He's a newer Spider-Man, and the way they've managed to animate him in that game to make it look like his swings aren't quite so professional. He's a bit more sort of loose in the way he handles.
Yeah,
it's just done so well, and I think they've absolutely nailed it. Like, there's no other game out there that makes you feel more like a superhero, more like Spider-Man than 2018's Insomniac Spider-Man.
I agree, mate. And just to sort of put a finer point on it, I would argue his swinging feels phenomenal. When you're fighting, it feels like Batman, but they never quite, for me, joined the two up the way Returnal does, because Returnal feels like Returnal the entire time you're playing it, whereas anytime you're playing Spider-Man, for my mind, you're either in swinging, free flow motion style, or you're in combat mode. They didn't meld them the way Returnal absolutely nailed. Bully, any thoughts?
My only thing with Spider-Man, I know it was a criticism when with the initial trailers come out, was that there was going to be a lot of quick time thrown into it, which when you were sort of looking at it initially is that going to take too much of away from the free swinging and that sort of stuff? But I reckon they did it really well in terms of, you get a couple of sections of quick time and then you go back to the free swinging around, and then you'll play through a scene that has a little bit of quick time and that sort of stuff. I thought it was amazing the way they put it together. I don't disagree with you, Troy, that if you look at them separately, the swinging was amazing. The combat I thought was actually amazing, the way they put it together and the abilities you had. but combining the two it felt a bit janky at times. Like you'd sort of go swinging into a combat scene, and it was almost like you'd hit a brick wall, and then you'd stop, and then it was the fighting scene. So
Yes.
just a little bit disjointed in that sort of aspect. I know we've got the new, hopefully next year, if not early 2024, the new Spider-Man 2 comes out, and hopefully they've fixed up some of that it sort of flows a bit more seamlessly from one aspect of the traversal to the other. But don't disagree that in terms of if you take them in isolation, it actually feels really good depending on which style you're working through at each particular time.
Agreed completely. All right, Unky, who's number 3 this evening?
And speaking of feeling like superheroes, this is where the meme it comes from. It made you feel like playing as Batman. You can pick any of the Batman games. I've gone with Arkham Knight, the more recent one. But what a game that makes you feel like Batman. I remember when Arkham Asylum first came out, it just blended the perfect stealth aspects of Batman with the combat style of Batman. Again, you say Spider-Man sort of had that hard brick wall where it felt like you had your swinging motion, then you had your combat, whereas Batman, I think, really nails the synergy between all of it together. Like you fly in as Batman, then you're straight into that free flow combat. It all kind of, I don't know what it is, because it does essentially do the exact same thing as Spider-Man does, but for whatever reason, the way Batman works, it sort of works more in synergy with each other. And the fact that you can sort of go from stealth to action back to stealth easier than you can in Spider-Man. But it just, no other game sort of nailed being the Batman as the Arkham series. And I might argue now that playing something like Gotham, that some of the controls and the mapping of those controls could be done differently, like the sprint button I prefer on a click of a thumbstick than holding an A button to run around as Batman. And Batman does have that awkward where you're either walking or you're sprinting. There's sort of nothing in between, which I think goes to the character himself. But in terms of playing the game and being smooth, it is a little bit weird to go from like this awesome Batman walk to then a straight out sprint, especially when you're pressing an A button, which makes it really hard to sort of use your thumb for anything else. So that's my only gripe with Batman. Yes, it does make you feel like the Batman, and no other game has ever sort of made you feel like Batman as much as the Arkham games are. It's some of just that control stuff for me.
I've got some good news for you on that one, Unky. I don't know if you're aware, but Gotham Knights, they've found a Lazarus pit. So even though Batman's dead, there's a Lazarus pit. So maybe you'll get some of that, the better movement on Batman when they put him in the Lazarus pit. That I don't know if you've heard. There's a Lazarus pit in it.
I definitely heard finish that game. I'm aware of that, where that story goes, but have you?
I still haven't finished it. No, I'm still just finished chapter 5. There's 6, 7, and 8 still to go. I got no idea how it is.
So we won't spoil it for you, but back to the Standoff. I mean, like in terms of feeling like a character, the Arkham series does definitely put you in the shoes of Batman, and it does it very, very well. My only gripe is the fact that some of those controls can feel a little bit dated going back to it now in relation to playing other games. So, Bully, what are your thoughts?
I agree with you a little bit with the movement, but it's one of those things of that slow Batman walk. It just, even looking at it now, having not played it for a number of years, just the way he walks around, he's that ultra cool, nothing, makes him, for want of a better word, he doesn't get overly flappable about things. He just goes, yep, this is how I'm just walking through the world. And if you want to come and try and take me, come and take me. And yes, it's a little bit of jank going from the walk to the run, but if you're walking around, you just feel like this cool, unstoppable force. And I think, when you compare it a little bit to the new Gotham Knights game, I think the one thing for me that was missing in that you have in these Batman games is when you're getting into those combat scenes and you're punching the enemies, and it doesn't matter how you do it, it feels absolutely brutal. It feels like you can feel that hard punch and the sound effects that go with it, that when you punch someone, you are punching the living lights out of them.
I think I say Batman doesn't kill people, but I'll be goddamn if some of those punches aren't doing some serious damage to those guys' brains.
I think I know it's a running gag at this point, but I think we all know, some of the moves that you're tossing people off the top of buildings. Come on.
At least in Spider-Man, they've got the animation. If you toss someone from a building, like you go and look, they've actually been webbed to that building. So, at least they go that far. Whereas Batman, they don't hide the fact. They say he doesn't kill people, but he's definitely putting them in wheelchairs.
But there's that, and I think the one thing which some people, depending on who they are, get a bit frustrated with it. But some of those enclosed segments where you're sneaking around and you've got little perches to sort of start off with and try and stealth your way through, and then later in the games, and it works with each one of them, is that the further you get in the game, that the enemies get a bit smarter about how you're playing. So they go, well, hang on, he's getting us from these perches. Let's start blowing up the perches, or he's attacking us from the grate, so let's booby trap those. Like even little things like that make you alter the way that you play it and play it a little bit differently as well. So you can't just go, oh, the easiest way is just to sit on this perch and just grapple people and tie them up. You've actually got to work your way through the way you play it as well. And to me, that adds to the extra element of how he controls and how he plays and all that sort of stuff. So, as much as it's probably a bit dated, I mean, what did Arkham Knight come out in 2015? So we're looking at 6 or 7 years old since we've seen that game. So, clearly the controls are going to be dated by today's standard, but I still think that it just has that almost untangible aspect of the, like I said before, the brutality of it and just the power that he has. And then you throw some of the gadgets into that as well that add to that sort of combat style and the stealth style as well.
They're great points, and if I can just quickly jump in, you've reminded me, speaking of, Batman throwing dead bodies around the level, shout out to Returnal for Selena constantly coming across her own corpse and then pillaging it. I thought that was just a beautiful touch and an emotional moment in that game. Next up, Standoff 4. I don't think we've spoken about this bloke yet tonight.
No, not at all. If you want to ever feel like a linebacker, Kratos is your man, especially in God of War 2018 or Ragnarok. The weight you feel when you play this game as Kratos is just...
Wait. Bully, can you talk about the weight in playing this game?
There's definitely a weight in playing the game. It's just felt differently.
The only weight on my shoulders is being thrown at me from Amazon. Go stuff yourselves. And I'll be honest, I reckon we've got about 15, 20 minutes to go, and the wait will be over.
Sorry, Unky, I totally cut you off, mate.
No, that's fine. No, like in terms of feeling like a god of war, this game definitely does it, or these games definitely do it. From the moment you throw that Leviathan axe and feel it, especially now with Ragnarok, and feeling it come back and hit your DualSense 5 or DualSense controller into your hand, just the way it feels. They know how to create power in your hands until that power's gone away from claw hands from mashing multiple different buttons. But I mean, they do a lot in that controller. But I mean, yeah, while you are doing it, you definitely do feel like a God of War. Like they give him all the tools you need to destroy your enemies. You've got your Blades of Chaos, you've got your axe, and they all feel so good to play as. And I think you play Kratos, and I don't want to say there's no spoilers, but I mean Kratos plays so differently to a lot of other characters that he's just got this heft and weight to him that it definitely does feel like you are this heavy character that can destroy other gods and has destroyed other gods, and but at the same token, like he's got this soft side that you see in his dialogue as well. But it's not until you start playing the gameplay just like, yep, this guy's an absolute beast and will destroy anything in his path to protect his son. So I just think it's animation, it's gameplay, it's controller feedback. I think the only argument you could say is that, yep, there's a lot of stuff going on that control at any given time, and anyone with sore hands or smaller hands or whatever is going to find a tough time, utilizing all those moves that Kratos has. But God damn it, he has a lot of moves, and I can't applaud them enough for putting so much in one controller. Considering a lot of games will keep it simple, this game just does everything it possibly can with that controller.
I agree, mate. You've called out my old man hands, which would be my only comment. Not Unky at all, Bully. Obviously referring to God of War 2018 here for you, mate.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, hopefully it ends up playing an extra level than what 18 did. But when you talk about when we say about the brutality of Batman before, I think this just takes it to another level, is that you feel that power and the strength, as Unky said, of almost this godlike creature that you can take on the world. And that's probably the biggest thing I'm looking forward to with the new one is you're having that power and that strength, and that you can take on anything in the world. And then you throw in, I know Troy's not a big fan of the DualSense controls with it and the old man hands, but I think adding that that dual sense stuff into it with the triggers and the rumble and the feedback and all that sort of stuff, just adding into that sense of brutality. And that's probably, story aside and gameplay aside, that's probably one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is getting into it with that stuff added into it, because the 2018 version was absolutely amazing and a complete step above what we were getting out of the old God of War games, which were fantastic and amazing in their own sort of way. But for me, that was the biggest step up. But apart from the story and the different take on it, was just a sense of how one man just can be so strong and brutal against the world.
And in Ragnarok, they go even further. It's like with his traversal mechanics and stuff, using the blades to sort of, put yourself up to a higher ledge and stuff like that. Or you can, sprint off a ledge now and do a takedown attack and stuff like that. They've added mobility to Kratos that increases the gameplay aspects and how those combat encounters work, but it doesn't detract from how big and heavy he is. He still feels like a big heavy bloke trying to climb up a wall with some chains. You don't ever feel like Spider-Man and zipping around a level like that. It still creates that massive, heavy heft of a man that can take on anything, but just gives you that traversal stuff. So I think Santa Monica Studios should be applauded for how they've managed to sort of increase the mobility of someone that is the size of Kratos who can take on gods. And it's just, they've gone to another level with this game. But I think even with 2018, they should be applauded for how this character feels to play as an over-the-shoulder character where, in the past he was, more, the camera angle was set back and it was a more action game as opposed to a third-person game. And the way they've sort of managed to pull that into the third-person perspective with that one-shot camera, I think just needs to be applauded, and it can't be sort of spoken about enough with how well they've made that character feel.
I agree, but Selena never left my old man hands. It's quite as sore as God of War has. Standoff 5 this evening.
Standoff 5
Control?
Jesse Faden in Control. So this is a power fantasy. I like a lot of people, I don't know, would have played Control or whatever, or wouldn't have her on this list with a lot of these other characters. But I think if you want to play as like an X-Man or a superhero or something, this character just nails all of that. And the power fantasy, she's got firearms, she's got special abilities, you can hover, you can essentially fly.
It's the telekinesis, though, surely. The lifting.
Yeah, just that stuff, and just being able to pull off rocks and fire them and stuff at any given time. It does it so well, especially now with the PS5 versions of the game that don't suffer those frame rate hiccups that the initial release did. But replaying through this game, and Troy and I both platinumed, and most of that was because it's just so much fun to pick up and play as Jesse Faden. And it wasn't in the news stories, but they have just announced they are currently working on a sequel, and I cannot wait. This game had one of the best levels in gaming, which I think we've always spoken about, was the maze level with that music that kicks in. But it's just a feel of playing Jesse Faden and the way she moves around a level. I think Remedy's very good at character animation, the way they make characters feel. Alan Wake, for me, was always fun to play as, with the torch mechanic as your aiming mechanic. But for me, just the way they incorporate the telekinesis abilities with the gun mechanics and all that stuff, I just love playing as Jesse.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. I second all those things. Big shout out to the telekinesis. That is one thing Returnal's missing. Bully, any thoughts?
Oh, the only thing, probably the biggest takeaway is that we don't get a lot of that using of telekinesis powers in games. There was a couple that came out in the early 2000s, was PsyOps, and I can't remember what the other one was, that really lent heavily into that as your combat mechanic. But this seems to, when you play through it, you start off and it's just you basically using guns and that sort of stuff, and then the longer you go into it, the more that you sort of lean onto that telekinetic power that sort of then becomes your main weapon, for want of a better word. I don't think it's something that's really used or utilised as much as probably what it should be. And in terms of gaming, I think it's very underutilised. That it could be used in a lot more stuff, and that's probably for me the biggest takeaway from this game is that it's just got something that not a lot of other games have. And the way that they've actually worked it into a control as well, pardon the pun, but the way that you control her with the firearm mechanics and the shooting and the supernatural abilities and the telekinesis and all that sort of stuff, it feels like it feels amazing to play. The only thing that really sort of put me off, and as I was saying to Unky before, probably going through and finishing the game was the fact that I got a little bit distracted with the actual story elements of it, and going into some of the lore that you had to sort of read through with, little pickups and collectibles and stuff that sort of left me at a certain point of going, hang on, I don't really understand what's going on here. It sort of left you a little bit behind if you weren't taking all that sort of stuff in. So if you are going to play it, if you haven't played it already, it was a PS Plus game that came out a while ago, but if you haven't played it already, certainly that would be my recommendation, is to pay a bit more attention to those collectibles and read through them so you get a full understanding of what's occurring. But in terms of how she actually plays, absolutely amazing. That's something that I couldn't fault.
Yep, I love it. And second, that brings us to Standoff 6 this evening.
Ooh, Max Payne 3, still one of the best third-person shooters ever created. Easily, for me, one of the best utilizations, or if not the best utilization of slow-mo in any game. The way you can use the dive or just activate it, and just the mechanics of Max himself throwing himself around a room, and the feeling you get from just firing that gun. Like, I went and replayed this game at the start of this year, and even at 30 frames per second, playing backwards compatibility, just the controlling of Max is just, I don't think any other third-person shooter feels as good as playing Max Payne. Just the animation he's got, the way he sort of moves around levels, and the bullet, the way those what's it called? The
bullet time.
The ragdoll physics of the way you hit enemies and stuff just feels so good. Wherever you hit them, they react properly. No other game. It's strange to think that no other game does it as well as Max Payne. The fact that you are holding weapons like your shotgun in one hand while you hold your pistol in the other. There's not many games that do that. Like, usually you got your invisible gun that you'll equip at any given time, but Max is always holding the guns that he can equip at any given time. And I think that sort of adds to the weight of playing as Max Payne in this game. And I just think no other game nails slow-mo like this game does, and I've been crying for it for as long as I can to get a 60 frame per second back compat version of this game on Xbox, or even just a remaster of this game. I know we're getting the remasters for 1 and 2 by Remedy. They're helping out with that, which is awesome. But to date, I can't think of a third-person shooter game that does his mechanics better than Max Payne 3.
I would agree with you completely, mate. Max Payne 3, the absolute winner of bullet time and ragdoll physics and gore, of course. I love the bloody results of the battles in Max Payne. Bully, your thoughts?
Oh, the only thing, I agree with all of that. The only thing, I was the same as Unky. I played it probably 3 or 4 months ago, went back and revisited it. It's brutally difficult from what I remember. I remember playing through the first couple of levels and just getting absolutely annihilated until you'd actually worked out where the enemies were coming from and where they were sort of hiding, and working your way through that. So you're almost it was almost a trial by error to get through some of the areas. But I agree that slow-mo bullet time, there's quite a few games that have tried to replicate it. None have done it anywhere near as good.
Agreed completely. Oh, my God. Number 7, Unky, one of your tops of the year, I think, mate.
It is. From one John Wick simulator to another, we have Sifu. Again, I don't play a lot of sort of action brawler games. The only two I've probably played this year are Sifu and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but this game just lit me up in terms of what you are doing on the screen at any given time. Yes, I do. I've admitted even earlier in this episode how much I love a certain art style, and this is one of those art styles. But I just think the controls and the way they worked in this game were just absolutely brilliant. I love the way they utilized the joystick to dodge character attacks and stuff as well. The way they incorporate, the ability to pick up the objects within the level to use to your advantage, like bow staffs and stuff. It's animated brilliantly. You just feel like an absolute badass. It's literally like feeling like John Wick getting involved in these like hallways and stuff like that. It's just, I've never played an action brawler game that has lit me up like something like Sifu. Yes, the difficulty is really hard, but I think the moment you pick up that controller and it teaches you how to play, and that you literally feel like you are getting better as a martial artist as you play the game more and your reactions get better. It's almost like a perfect simulation of this martial arts game. And the more you play it, you get better. It's just like real life, where the more you would practice a martial art, the more you get better at it. So you play through these levels over and over again and just get better and better at it the more you play. And I think the way it teaches you to play the game is just absolutely brilliant. And by the end of the game, when you actually finish it, if you haven't just bumped the difficulty down, Troy, then the sense of accomplishment at the end of this game was just so great. It felt like you had accomplished not only the game but the martial art itself, and I just think it was absolutely brilliant. I can't fault the controls for this game. It's one of those games, again, we spoke about Returnal, that if you make a mistake, it does feel like it's on you, not on the game, which I think is a testimony to really good control in a game and really good animation and really good controller feedback. That if the game gives you these tools to play the game and then you're just not good enough to do it, that's how you die. It's not because you're hitting the wrong button or etc. But no, I absolutely love this game, and it is literally down to the feel of it, the play of it. It's incredible.
I agree with all those points, mate. And the only one I'd add is the other excellent thing these guys need to be shouted out for is that skill tree, that progression tree. As you're saying, the more you play it, the better you get, the more in tune with the character you feel. But also with this game, for me anyway, still 10 hours in, I'm unlocking new abilities and adding them into my sort of fighting recipe, if you will. So they even just drawing out the exploration of the gameplay mechanics is phenomenal in this game, the way it's structured. I absolutely loved it. Bully, your thoughts?
I agree with everything that Unky said. That I think the one thing that needs to be thrown out there for those that haven't played it is brutally difficult.
Unless you play it on easy.
Unless you drop it down easy.
Or you're a hashtag gamer like me.
If you just play it on the regular level, people talk about the Soulsborne games and how difficult they are. Now, I agree with them. They're difficult. This is on another level. And you really need to get those parries right. There's no cheesing things. There's no hiding in the corner and waiting for guys to come to you and sort of picking them off one by one. You need to know the controls. You need to basically delve into the game and almost, immerse yourself in it for a period of time to get that control scheme up. And it lends into exactly that, is how he controls and how he plays. If you can get that down pat, you'll do very well at it. That's not my style, really. I don't have the old man hands. I've just got the old man reactions, and I just don't. I just don't have the ability to react in the way that this game needs to. Despite the fact that you can see, if you were to play it properly, and even when you're playing it poorly, you can still see, like Unky said, it's your fault that you've mucked things up, and you haven't progressed how you should, or you haven't defeated that enemy. You can see it's you that is the one that's doing it, and you need to get either better at it or you need to give it away. But you certainly need to invest the time into it. Otherwise, it's going to rip you apart.
It is an excellent entry into this week. Speaking of excellent entries, who is number 8, Unky?
We have Doom Guy from Doom 2000, I think it was 18, and also Doom Eternal. But as far as first-person shooters go, this was, I know a lot of people are like, oh, Doom, it's coming back. How are they ever, going to recreate the glory days of Doom? And I remember it was quite famous that I think the review embargo, I think Bethesda had this weird thing back in the day where they were going to give review embargoes up until the day of the game releasing. So everyone just thought this game was going to be absolute trash when it first came out. And then the game came out and everyone was just very pleasantly surprised that it not only reviewed well, but just controlled so well. This game, with its music, with its feeling, with its pace, just the execution you had on the enemies and stuff, it was just all so smooth. Like, Doom had never felt so fresh, and I think first-person shooters had never felt so fresh and going back to old school, but I think Doom did it perfectly. I mean, you've got games like Halo and Call of Duty out there that could arguably be on this list as well in terms of, feeling like modern-day first-person shooters. Like Call of Duty, you could argue is one of the best feeling first-person shooters out there when it comes to its multiplayer and reactivity and all that kind of stuff. Halo paved the way for first-person shooters on consoles being one of the most playable first-person shooters out there, but you had Doom come out, and it was just so fast-paced, and the way the gameplay fed into the music, which fed into the character himself, I just think was done so well. And I think with Eternal, they upped it with a whole bunch of traversal stuff as well that he could do that you couldn't do in the first one. But I just think with Doom, it's one of those games that you could easily stuff up with something as simple as Doom, just, you're shooting bad guys and running fast, but it never feels dull in Doom, and it's always exciting, and it's just so much fun to play.
Speaking of 30 frames per second, last generation Max Payne, I would argue both Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal are children of the next gen. These require 60 frames a second, but with that 60 frames a second, they do feel something special. They are a cut above the rest, and I don't think you can have these games without the current gen hardware and 60 frames a second, but in that environment, they are almost as good as Eternal, I would argue.
Almost.
Bully.
Oh, the other thing I'd add to that is just the way they move, the way your character moves, and all the rest of it is fluid and silky. And as you say, Troy, you add that's at minimum 60 frames into that, it's going to feel a lot better. But for mine with this one is the melee attack. So you can shoot as much as you want. You can you try and pick things off from afar, but the actual best part of this game is forging ahead really quickly and pushing your way into these throngs of enemies and taking them out in a melee style combat, and the way you can fluidly move from one to the next, and you pump a couple of bullets in, then you'll melee them, then you move on to the next one, and so on and so forth. I think that's probably the one that for me really ticks it over the top from the way that you play this game compared to other first person shooters, like you said, like your Call of Duty and your Halos and that sort of stuff, is that it gets both into it. Because you play Call of Duty, you don't really play it for, running and gunning and meleeing and that sort of stuff. You're picking off people with the guns. This adds that extra element into it, which makes it play and feel a lot better.
I agree completely. Next up, and the final entry, number 9 this evening, Unky.
Standoff is you, yourself, or if you want to, role play, you as Darth Vader or any other Jedi in the Star Wars universe, or Sith, is Beat Saber. I don't think anyone can deny that how good it feels to play Beat Saber the first time. I remember getting my PlayStation VR back in the day, back when it was, not $30,000 to purchase a headset. But picking up Beat Saber, and even especially now with the Oculus, without it being tethered by wires at all, just you can bring out as many Star Wars games as you like, but slashing at little objects with arrows on them to some pretty sweet music has never made you feel more like a Jedi than Beat Saber does. You don't quite get that rush of any other game, and it's a reason it's one of the best-selling games ever on any VR or all VRs. Is because it's so accessible to anyone, and it just feels so good to play. Like, I don't think you can play. You can put anyone in a headset with Beat Saber, and I guarantee you, 99%, if not 100% of people are going to have fun with this game.
Absolutely. It is one of my all-time favorite PS4 VR titles. I won't be going hands-on with the PSVR 2 version of it, I don't think, but I'll note I'm still one goddamn trophy away from the platinum in this, and I'm never going to quite get there. But, Bully, what are your thoughts on Beat Saber?
Oh, I can't tell you much about this. This is one of the PSVR games I didn't play, so I will have to let you know, Troy, if I do end up following through the pre-order, if and when it's released on the VR2, how it does play on that one.
Very good, mate. But, gentlemen, I have made no qualms about this. My money this week is definitely on Selena. Standoff entry 1 Returnal, but where are you falling?
I mean, I could easily go Celine Returnal as well, just because that game just controls so well, and every time you pick up that game, it just the moment you get control of her, it's perfect. But I mean, there's a lot of good games on this list. I mean, I'd say good games, a lot of good characters that
No
control
question.
well. Like I still go back and even recently went back to Max Payne 3 and just cannot believe how well that game controls for something how old it is. And just wanting something that I don't even care. It can control exactly the same as Max Payne 3 controls, just better graphics, and I think it would still, to this day hold up, which is why Max Payne 3 it's almost up there with me, is the fact that the game's so old, it still controls as well as it does, and I would still put it up there as Rockstar's best game, regardless of their pedigree. It's tough for me. I know Bully's leading towards Batman. That's where I think he's going. It's where the meme came from. It makes you feel like Batman. But again, I do have those qualms with its slightly outdated controls. And yes, we've got to look at games, holistically and see when they came out. And obviously stuff's advanced. And at the time, it was sort of a great game in terms of how it played. But I'm stuck. I'm stuck between Celine and I'm stuck between Max Payne. Bully.
All right, Bully, where are you sitting, mate?
Oh, Unky, you know exactly where I'm heading.
Yeah.
For me, and it started with Arkham Asylum, which came out of the blue, but it progressed from there. It just there is no other game, in my opinion. And yes, Spider-Man was good, and we've had games that haven't been about superheroes per se, but they've tried to emulate it. But for mine, no game has encapsulated what it feels to be a one-man wrecking ball of a superhero. Yes, he doesn't have the superpowers, but he's got the gadgets.
Oh, I've lost Bully's audio, Troy. Troy, I've lost all audio. Have you got me?
Hello, gents. Do you have me back? Hopefully, Unky, can you hear me? Hello. Well, I think it's all gone pear-shaped. I think I'm the only one left. As a result, I am going to go ahead and do the winner of this week's standoff. I don't know where you blokes are gone, and I have no idea what has happened. I'll give you blokes 2 more seconds to jump on in. Bully, Unky, can you hear me? Are you there, fellas? I think this is all good.
Troy, have you got me? Have you got me?
Oh, Bully's. Hello, Bully.
Have you got me?
I can hear you there, Unky.
Ah, beautiful. I think we're back, are we?
No, we are gonna have to say that's Returnal. I think it's all good. I hope my audio is going to the. We're gonna have to wrap it up here. I'm very sorry, everyone. We're just gonna have to call an end. No, it's episode 50. I'm sorry we went so long. I think maybe Discord, Zencaster, someone's cut us off at the knees. I reckon we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. We are due. Make sure you check out the rest of the channel. What else can you do with like it? Subscribe it. You'll never miss it.
Oh, that was luck. Hey, that's something.
I love everything about it. Ooh.
Old Uncle Donkey. Gee, Donkey.